Ladies and gentlemen, good morning. During the declared emergency, Committee for Adjustment virtual public hearings are being conducted by electronic means through WebEx, an online digital platform, and streamed on the Toronto City Planning YouTube channel. These measures are necessary to comply with physical distancing requirements and in-person attendance limitations. My name is Isaac Laluz, and I'll be chairing the hearing. Committee members participating today are Nazila Tarodi, Natasha Manning, Joe Bertolo, and Thomas Klassen. City staff, by the way, we have a new member here, Natasha Manning, and we'd like to welcome you. Welcome to our panel. So the city staff here today is Dan Antonacci, Kelly Reed, and Chris Pereira. Participants who have registered in advance will be able to make their presentation to the committee using the said WebEx. Anyone wishing to view the hearing may do so by watching on YouTube. These participants will be connecting either by their computer, a phone, a tablet app, or by telephone. All participants will automatically be muted on entry. When your item is called, each participant will be unmuted by the moderator, one person at a time. Only the committee members will be participating by video. Any registered speaker will be participating by audio only. We ask that you also mute your devices until you're called on to speak. For those waiting online to speak, please make sure you call with the telephone number you originally registered with. Calling with a different number, you will not be able to speak on the item. For land acknowledgement, we acknowledge the land we are meeting on is the traditional territory of many nations, including the Mississaugas of the Credit, the Anishinaabe, the Chippewa, the Haudenosaunee, and the Wendat peoples, and is now home to many diverse First Nations, Inuit, and Métis peoples. We also acknowledge that Toronto is covered by Treaty 13 with the Mississaugas of the Credit. In accordance with Section 45 and 53 of the Planning Act 1990 as amended, this meeting of the Committee of Adjustment of the City of Toronto is called to order. The Committee of Adjustment considers applications for variances from the provision of the zoning bylaw, permission to extend or alter legal non-conforming uses, and consent to sever property to create new lots. Anyone wishing to receive a copy of the decision today should apply by email. Please ensure that you include your name, address, and email address, because Committee of Adjustment and the TLAB will be sending notifications and appeal updates by email only. If you do not agree with this decision of the committee, decisions may be appealed to the Toronto local appeal body known as TLAB, or in some limited circumstances, to the Ontario Lands Tribunal. Appeal instructions are set out at the bottom of the decision of the committee. For hearing procedure today, I will call each item in the order listed on the agenda. Where an application is uncontested, the agent or applicant will proceed with their presentation, if required. The committee may ask questions and or take the matter directly for decision. Each speaker, including the applicant agent, will be given a maximum of 5 minutes to address the committee. I will comment when the 5-minute mark is reached. When addressing the committee, please clearly state your name and address, and please remember to confine your remarks to the matters outlined in the application. The applicant or agent will proceed first and will make the presentation to the committee. Please note that the committee may not entertain revisions to proposals at the hearing today. The committee may decide to defer the application if substantially revised, to ensure the revised application is accurate and that all those entitled to receive a notice are informed of the changes. Then individuals either in support or in opposition to the application will be invited to speak. Committee members may ask questions of each speaker at the end of their presentation. When all speakers are finished, the applicant agent has the chance to address only those issues that were raised by the speakers. This will mark the end of the discussion, and the application will be taken to committee for a decision. Now we have there is no minutes to adopt today, and I have no records of any file to close. We have a number of, before that, for this morning's session only, members or staff, any conflict of interest to declare? No? Okay, so we have a number of deferrals today, and for this morning's session, we have one, number 14. Number 14 is 53 Riddell Avenue, and here we have Edward Brothers registered here. Mr. Brothers, are you there?
Yes, hello.
Okay.
I am here,
Okay.
and we would like to defer.
Yeah. But just a second. Could you please state your name,
Sorry.
your name and address for the record here?
Okay, my name is Edward Broders. I'm at 2191 Yonge Street, 2708,
Thank you. We have,
Toronto, Ontario, M4S 388.
thank you. Yeah, we have here an application for a new dwelling, 15 variances. The staff report is recommending to refuse, and you're asking for deferral. Could you please give us the reason why you're asking for deferral?
Well, we would like to address the concerns. We've seen that the report was negative, so we want to update the design and work with planning staff to find a solution that they're happy with and that our neighbors are happy with,
Okay.
my clients' neighbors.
Okay, to defer for a possible update of the application. Okay, now
Yes.
we have one more speaker registered here. We'll see if they're online. Eric Pervin, are you online?
Mr. Chair, we do not have an Eric Pervin.
No?
By name or by number.
Okay, so there is nobody else. Okay, so we have only the agent who's asking for deferral in order to for a possible revision of the application. Any question, or if there is no question, can I have a motion to defer? Mr. Bartolo?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Through you, I'll put forward a motion to defer this application to allow the applicant to make revisions and address the city comments. And I'll make that sine die.
Thank you. Second to defer, Ms. Satarodi, all in favor? Okay, so unanimously, sir, your application is deferred sine die. So you check with the staff when it's coming back.
Thank you.
Okay. Now we go to application number 1, which is 216 Newton Drive, application number 1. And here we have registered here Ali Malek Zadeh. Are you there?
Yes, Mr. Chair. My name is Ali Malik Zadeh, and I'm an architect and presenting this application today.
Okay. Now, this application is for a severance, 2 combined loss to 3, and 3 variance applications. Staff report is requesting or is recommending to defer the application due to some corner that was not included in the calculations. Are you asking for deferral, or you want us to proceed?
I think it's a very technical issue, and they understand the issue. I would like to proceed.
Okay. All right. So as you know, if you're not asking for deferral, we'll listen to the application. It can be approved, or it can be refused or deferred. So you want to proceed?
I would like to proceed. Yes.
Okay. So I'll give you 5 minutes and tell us the merits of your application, please.
Okay, can I ask if they can bring the site plan showing the tree property up? And then also our plan if it's possible. Yeah, that's the art plan. My client, they own two property on 2016 and on 2018. 2016 Newton is a corner lot, which is has a flankage to Castleville Drive. We are proposing sever these two property to the three property facing Castleville Drive. Exactly same scenario and then same orientation and then condition of the lot is exist on the west side of the Castleville Drive. The lot, 50-foot lot frontage. They are a little bit deeper, but ours is 100 feet deeper. That's why we are asking for the minor variance on the lot area. As part of this severance, the complication was how we parting these two property, which become on a six the part. And then the confusion right now that the CT staff, they notify, is a corner circle that we have on Newton Drive and then Castle Drive. And on this image, it's showing at the bottom corner, left corner of the part one. The frontage is actually is bigger than 15.24, but we didn't have any communication with the staff that they took this lot as a 10.75. As you see, the 10.75 is just before the curve, and then when you calculate the curve in that application, in that frontage, is become over 15 meters the frontage. I think this is very clear in our drawing and then also in our plan. Even on the part 6, we have the real lot line as a 15.24. So we keeping consistent of the requirement of the frontage between all the three lots, which the other two lot, which is a combination of part 2 and then 5 and then 3 and then 4. They are all 15.33 meters frontage, and the last one, which is a combination of part 1 and then 6, because of the corner, it was a discrepancy. We try to fit the proposed houses in the frontage that we have, and then the rear setback. So we try to minimize the number of the minor variance. We have some minor variance between the houses on the side yard setbacks, and then the coverage, because now we have 100 feet length of the proposed lot. We just trying to keep the coverage within the usual approval of this committee as 32% or under 32%. The height, we are asking for some very minor variance on the height and then main wall height actually. This project also was, this proposal was also communicate with the Councillor Fillion office as well. And then we presented over there. We have his verbal support on that application. We communicate also with the staff. This application been in a process for over a year, almost year and a half. But given the COVID issue, we also have communication with the urban forestry about a couple of the trees that they have concern. We have the arborist report in a place. Our arborist was communicating with the urban forestry, and there is couple of issue that the comments that they have for one tree, that we are in a process of resolving it with the proposal and in the way of protecting that tree as well. I know that there is a report from Urban Forestry regarding to the injury of one of the tree, which we are in a process and working with that. And if this committee decide to approve this application, we know that this is a condition of the Urban Forestry, and then for sure we are going to resolve that issue before the permit application and then passing the conditions.
Okay, thank you. You're exactly on your 5 minutes. Perfect. Okay, members, any question for this speaker? Yeah, Mr. Tarodi?
Yes, through you, Mr. Chair. The applicant explained that they tried their best to for the lot coverage. Also, all of them he mentioned that are within the bylaw. As far as the application that I have in front of me, application number A0661-21NY. So variance number 3, the proposed lot coverage is 33% versus 30%. Could the applicant explain more about this? Because he specifically mentioned in his comment that he complied.
I think it was just misunderstanding. I said about the frontage, but coverage, I said we are over, but within the approval of this committee as before. But the middle lot, when we go into the north, the one from beside the corner and then the one in north of that, because the lot is getting narrower. Because of the angle of Castville Drive, the lot is become smaller in terms of the lot area, but because we are keeping almost the same footprint for all these 3 houses, even though we shrink it a little bit on each lot. That's why is going a little bit over than the 32% on the last lot. So that was the reason. But we know that we are asking for the coverage.
Okay. Yeah, Mr. Zadeh, do you have any records of the percentages that were approved in the area?
As usual, I know that this committee doesn't like to see those percentage, and staff is already reviewed those on their comments. No, I don't have anything at this point to show as a exact lot or property that you approved before.
Okay, thank you. Any other question? If not, can I have a motion? Anyone for a motion? Mr. Bartolo?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair, through you. In reviewing this application and understanding the numbers behind it and some of the intricacies involved with the rounded street there and the pie-shaped lots as we get closer towards one corner, I think this application meets the 4 tests. I do believe it's minor in nature, and I do believe the neighborhood is in transition as well. So I'm going to put forward a motion to approve this application, subject to the conditions of the urban forestry memo and subject to the recommendations of the ECS, Engineering Construction Services, as well.
Okay.
And that'll be my motion.
Yeah, basically forestry too. So, do you have a second? Mr. Klassen seconding?
Yes, Mr. Chair, I guess we're also adding the standard conditions
Yes,
that
thank
are
you.
always added to
Thank you.
severances.
Thank you. Standard conditions for the severance. Mr. Bartolo, you're okay with that?
No problem. That's
Okay.
correct.
Okay, so Mr. Klassen is seconding. All in favor? Opposed? Mr. Tarodi is opposing. and the application is approved. Sir, your application is approved, subject to those recommendations and subject to the standard recommendations, standard conditions for the severance. Okay, so we'll move to number 2, which is 171 DAWLISH Avenue, application number 2. And here we have Mr. Richard Wangle. Are you there?
Yes, Mr. Chair. Richard Wangle, 102 Avenue Road.
Thank you. Okay, so we have this rare addition, 5 variances, staff report, just a condition per to build per site plan, and forestry supporting as well with just some recommendations. Okay, members, do we need the presentation here? No? Okay. Mr. Wangle, we don't need the presentation. The committee does not need the presentation. Would you, do you want to say something before we move to the decision?
No, Mr. Chair, I think this is a very straightforward application, and I think if there are questions, I'd be happy to answer.
Thank you. So, any question or motion, please? Ms. Atarodi?
Yes, thank you. To you, Mr. Chair, I would like to put forward a motion to approve this application with only one staff condition, that the building length and depth be developed substantially in accordance with this site plan drawing attached to the report. You talk about urban forestry. Does it have any urban forestry?
Well, this is very funny. It has the supporting information said there is a forestry, but the list of forestry said 0. So if you want to add forestry, they can check with them or not. So you can add forestry.
Okay, and then subjected to forestry.
Thank you. Second? Mr. Klassen seconding. All in favor? Okay, thank you. Unanimously, your application is approved, subject to the staff condition to build per site plan and to forestry if there is one.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Okay, number 3 is 76 GLENGROVE Avenue, application number 3. And here we have, what do we have here? Yeah? Okay, here is David Bronscale. Yeah, Mr. Bronscale, are you there?
I am, sir. Thank you.
Okay, so this is a new dwelling. You have 7 variances. Staff reports just a condition per site plan. Forestry condition number 2, and we have 11 letters of objection. Now, we'll give you the 5 minutes. Please tell us the merit of your application, and then we'll call the area residents, see what they have to say. You can start now, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good morning to the members of the committee. As you noted, Mr. Chair, in your intro, it is an application to build a new residence with 7 required variances. Those variances include an FSI variance, length and depth variances, some projections related to the platform, and a height variance to the old bylaw. I'll simply note that variance is for 17 centimeters. There's no height variance for the new bylaw, and it's a variance that results from where grade is measured versus the new bylaw versus the old bylaw. What I'd likely to do is explain a few matters related to the layout of the dwelling, touch then briefly on the FSI and building length and building depth. The house itself, there's 2 pieces that have sort of oriented the layout of the house as you can see it on the materials that were provided with you. And I think this type of plan you've seen before. It shows the existing house, it shows an outline of a permitted as of right house, and then it shows the proposed dwelling itself. The dwelling itself is actually pushed back slightly at the front from where the front yard setback otherwise would be. It's about 1.25 meters pushed back. And part of that was working with forestry staff. There's a private tree on the adjacent dwelling at number 80. And there's been some root exploration. Obviously, that's not a tree that is within our client's control because it's on an adjacent property. But working with urban forestry, the house has actually been pushed back about 1.25 meters to get more of it out of the tree protection zone. And that's an approach that urban forestry has indicated it's acceptable. That does push then generally the massing of the house a bit further to the rear. There is a 1-story portion at the rear that extends slightly into the rear yard setback. And that 1-story portion obviously exceeds the length and depth. Part of that 1-story portion, Mr. Chair, is for an addition that's the breakfast nook and then a prayer room for our client that does have to be located in that location for various reasons related to location, orientation, path of the sun, etc. And so that layout at the back is included. I would simply note, and as planning has noted in their positive staff report, the length and dwelling are measured to the rear of the excavated portion of the house. There are modest portions on the first floor and a very small portion on the second floor that are actually exceeding these building lengths and depths. When you get up to the second floor on the floor plans, I'd note other than the bathtub in what's sort of a bay window, all of the second floor is in fact at 17 meters. So the house itself, other than this first floor projection and the what I'm going to call bay window on the second floor as part of the bathroom, all of the house otherwise is within the 17 meters. So the length and depth, while on paper may seem longer, they're actually not in terms of how the massing is deployed, and planning staff have recognized that in their staff report and are recommending a very good condition, which is that the plans, that any approval should be tied to the plans to ensure that the length and depth are deployed as suggested. The last thing, sir, very quickly on the FSI, we have provided maps that show different FSIs that are approved in the area. But what I wanted simply to note is that the massing, and this can either be seen on the elevation in page 6 of the package or on the rendering at page 7, the massing doesn't really change based on the FSI. If it's just the ground and second floor, the FSI is actually 74.85. Which is less and frankly well within the range of approvals in the area. What's been done is within the roof line is inclusion of an upper story or third story study area as part of ensuring the house has good work from home capabilities, but it doesn't change anything about the structure of the house. That's what takes the FSI to 82.16 or 0.8216. And whether or not it's 0.7485 or 0.8216, the overall massing and structure of this house isn't going to change. So, Mr. Chair, that's an overall presentation and justification. I'd be happy to answer any questions and obviously listen and respond to those who are going to speak after me.
Thank you. Yeah, we'll have the members ask questions, but in the meantime, we'll see what the other ones have to say. So the next one we have online here is Michael Barton. Are you there? Michael?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay. Could you please state your name and your own address for the records here?
Yes, my name is Michael Barton, MB1 Development Consulting. So I have been retained by the owners of 80 Glengrove and 36 Heather Street to present to the committee today.
Okay, please go ahead. Tell us what they're concerned about this application.
Okay, so I'd submitted a written submission as well to the committee, but I'm going to cover off the key items there, but just a couple of upfront things just to let the committee know. I'm very familiar with this community, having worked with a number of members of the community on previous applications and also representing owners at a number of TLAB appeals in this community. And just a couple of key general comments before I speak to this application. So firstly, I'm seeing in similar committee applications that I'm seeing here, is there a general lack of consideration for the immediate context and properties that abut a specific property in favor of finding properties throughout the broader context that can be used as comparisons. So in other words, seeking an existing example that can be used to justify a proposal rather than looking at whether this proposal fits in within its specific context. Another concern I have is with the idea of isolating minor variances in the analysis rather than considering their overall cumulative impact. So for example, looking at whether there's other properties in the neighborhood that have a certain height, looking at whether there's properties in the neighborhood that have a certain setback, but not considering whether those sample properties have all of the same characteristics that are being considered and the same combination of variances. I think there's a lack of recognition in the area that new builds and houses that are seeking minor variances are still represent a minority of this neighborhood and don't represent the prevailing built form character. In many cases, the examples of properties that are being used within a neighborhood analysis are looking at existing dwellings that maybe don't represent a situation you want to recreate. So for example, if you have a house from 1940 that has a 0-meter setback, using that as justification to provide a 0-meter setback on a new build, it just doesn't, for me, it's not an appropriate precedent to be used to justify a specific application. Again, in terms of that lot analysis, being able to say that this within this neighborhood there's this X number of houses that are similar in size, when not taking into consideration the specifics of those individual properties, is very problematic. So with that, I'll go to the document that I submitted to the committee that outlined my specific concerns. So as I indicated, I am representing the owner of 80 Glengrove, which is immediately next door, and 36 Heather, which is to the rear. This property is back onto 36 Heather. Again, it's important to, when we look at the site plan, you can see that the existing house provides a pretty significant west side yard setback and open space in the rear yard. This is a relatively shallow property as it backs on to 36 Heather. So there's a concern there about the extension of this house within that context. Now, specifically, as we start looking at the neighborhood, I would agree that what we see in the neighborhood is relative consistency and types of homes. So, when you're looking at the impact of this development, I think what comes into consideration is that the effect of this proposal is really to construct a dwelling that's considerably larger than what's on the property today, and that will change the relationship to the abutting properties. So that being the properties to the east and west, as well as to the rear. And then what we're seeing is the reductions in the rear yard setback, side yard setback, increase in height, floor space, and building length are really going to accumulate to result in an unreasonable impact to the community. So again, hearing concerns about whether there are other properties in the area that have a similar height, is that considering the impact of that height in conjunction with the reduced side yard setback? Is it considering this context that has a shallow lot backing onto another property's side yard? So what I've laid out in my submission, and not going through it all in detail, is that in terms of the official plan, what you're seeing is that this proposed variance is going to, or the proposed variances will result in a property that's 2.73 meters longer than that's currently permitted. The height is going to exceed the maximums in conjunction with reduced side yard and rear yard setbacks. So what we're seeing here is a concern about that overall built form massing. So the purpose and intent of the official plan are not maintained from the perspective of reinforcing and respecting existing physical character and open space patterns of the community. You're going to see an increase in the built form massing and lot coverage relative to existing conditions. There was a comment about this idea of as of right conditions. In my opinion, you can build a house.
Sir, I ask you to summarize, please. Your 5 minutes are over. Can you please summarize?
I'll summarize. So again, what I'm saying here is that an as of right dwelling could be constructed that would result in significant change on the property. And allowing minor variances that exceed those as of right permissions will result in adverse impacts to the neighboring property owners. For that reason, it does not meet the 4 tests of the Planning Act, particularly compatibility. So individually and cumulatively,
Okay,
these minor variances don't
thank
meet the
you. We'll
test.
see if the members have any question. Any question for the speaker? Mr. Klassen?
Yes, just a question. At the moment, there's a garage which is in the backyard of the property, and as I understand the plans, that's to be demolished. I'm just interested in your comments on that.
Yes, so a garage or any form of accessory structure generally less intrusive on a neighboring property, usually used for storage purposes, as opposed to amenity space such as a deck in a rear yard or a platform. There usually aren't windows on these types of structures where someone would be living in the structure and have visibility to a rear yard. So removing an accessory structure to then provide a longer dwelling that intrudes into the rear yard setback definitely has a greater impact to a neighboring property. And again, in this case, it's going onto not only the rear yard, but also the side yard of the property that's behind. So there is a large potential for that reduction in the rear yard setback in conjunction with the increase in building length to have a significant impact.
Thank you. Any other question? Okay, so next speaker is Ellie Aaron. Are you there? Ellie Aaron.
Hello?
Yeah, hi. Could you please state your name and address for us?
Yep. Name is Eli Aaron,
Eli.
and I'm speaking for the Lytton Park Residents Organization. Address is 2708 Young Street.
Thank you. So tell us what's your
And
concern.
could the staff please put up the letter that was sent from the Lytton Park Residents Organization?
Eli, can you please just start your presentation while we pull that up for you?
It may have been sent from the name of our Vice President, Maureen Capral.
Yep, just can you present while we pull it up?
Yes. As I mentioned, I'm here representing the Lytton Park Residents Organization. We frequently comment on minor variance applications in the area. Oh, there we go. Perfect. If you can just move to the next slide. So this is the immediate context area that I'm showing you here, going from Heather Street to Rosewell Avenue along both sides of Glengrove Avenue. And I've highlighted the property there in red. You can see it near the corner of Heather Street. And there are 34 dwellings on this block. Next slide, please. So the bylaw permitted FSI in this area is 0.35 times the lot area. However, using City of Toronto data, I've analyzed the FSIs of all the houses on the block, and the average FSI on this block is just under 0.47 times the lot area. So what's proposed at 0.82 is not only 135% above the bylaw permitted FSI, but it's 76% above the block average. It exceeds every house on the block by quite a bit, and it does not respect nor reinforce the prevailing character of the immediate context area. Next slide. So this is a bar chart showing an analysis of the FSI of all the houses on the block. So the blue bars represent each address on this city block. And you can see that the average FSI is 0.47. And the vast majority of the houses are 0.65 or less. The only two houses on this block that are above 0.7 are 99 Glengrove and 155 Glengrove. And those are very shallow corner lots that are not comparable to the mid-block lot that we are talking about today. And so you can see the proposed FSI is so far in excess of what is the prevailing character of this block, because you know, the official plan talks about the prevailing character of the you know, the importance of the immediate context area. And this is an in-depth analysis of the immediate context area showing how the proposal does not align with the prevailing character of this immediate context area. Next slide, please. So the proposed length is just over 19.7 meters. Bylaw permitted is 17. And it's important to note that on this block of Glengrove Avenue, the north side and the south side of the street were developed separately as parts of different subdivisions. And so the lot depths are not the same. The south side of Glengrove Avenue, the lots are 165 feet deep. On the north side, the lots are only 125 feet deep. So the lots on the north side are 40 feet less deep than the lots on the south side. And this house is, of course, located on the north side where the lots are far shallower. And as a result, the houses don't have the same length and depth on the north side than they do on the south side in response to that, that shallower lot depth. So the average is only about 14.5 meters on the average length on the north side of this block. And so the proposed house exceeds the average length by about 17 feet. Next slide, please. So as we can see in this graph, the lengths of all the houses are generally 17 meters or less. They generally fall in the range of about 12 to 17 meters on the north side of this block. So the proposed house exceeds the length of every single house on the north side of this block by quite a bit, substantially exceeds the length of every house on the north side of this block. And the length is really not compatible with the neighboring properties. Next slide. So this is just a summary. The proposal doesn't maintain the intent of the zoning bylaw with respect to the FSI, the length, the rear yard setback, and the rear yard of the rear platform. And the proposal doesn't maintain the intent of the official plan with respect to built form policies or neighborhoods policies. The variances are not minor in terms of metric and in terms of the impact to adjacent properties, and the variances are not desirable. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Any question? Okay, so if not, we have the next speaker who is actually a couple, Michelle and Malcolm Rutherford. Are you there?
Hi.
Hi.
Yes, Michael Barton already represented us, so I don't think there's anything in addition
Oh,
for us
okay.
to say at
Thank
this
you.
time.
Thank you. So you agree with
Thank
the former speaker. Okay, very good. So, okay, so Mr. Bronskill, are you, could you please come back and respond to those concerns?
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the committee. Just a few things quickly in response. One, I hope, and I apologize if one of my dogs is intruding on my presentation. Mr. Chair, I apologize. I hope in my initial presentation it was clear to the committee that I in fact didn't point to examples in the area and say because they got them, you should approve these variances. And in fact, what I had hoped to have done in the way I framed my presentation is in fact talk about the unique approach on this site, which is one, pushing the house back to accommodate a significant tree on, in fact, 80 Glengrove, one of the neighbors who's here and represented by Mr. Barton. And then the fact that at the rear, it's a one-story protrusion for the length and depth, which accommodates a small addition to the breakfast room And then, as I noted, the prayer room that has to be located in that position. Absent that tree, this house, in fact, could move forward 1.25 meters on the lot. And so it was a qualitative approach specific to this site that is driving the rationale for the variances, not a numeric approach that just simply points to others in the area as precedents. We do have those numbers available for the committee on our maps because we do recognize that the quantitative can be a factor in understanding the variances. But I think the planning staff report in this matter is critical in looking at the qualitative and why they have recommended approval subject to an important condition. Mr. Chair, in terms of the numeric analysis, I would actually, the second presenter, I would actually urge the committee to reject that approach, and here's why. I understand the official plan direction to look at the immediate context as a result of changes to the neighborhood's policies. And that's something this committee does all the time. You look at both the geographic neighborhood and the immediate context of the block. I accept that. However, a numeric approach, frankly, takes everything out of planning. What the second speaker essentially was urging you to do was take the neighborhood as frankly wrapped today in saran wrap or preserved in formaldehyde and never changed as a baseline. That is, it's reviewing all of the existing houses, whether or not they are underdeveloped on their sites today in accordance with the zoning bylaw. And if that approach is taken, in fact, in many instances, existing zoning provisions would be offside the official plan. And I don't think that's consistent with policy 4.1.8 in the official plan that specifically indicates that the numeric standards in the zoning bylaw are intended and accepted as achieving compatibility. And then what we have to do, obviously, here through the variance is look at whether we're maintaining the general intent and purpose of those provisions. So the numeric analysis urged upon you, I just don't think is fair or correct in terms of how to look at it. And the last thing, Mr. Chair, is I didn't really hear any concerns about impacts. It was just about the numbers. As I noted to you earlier, it's a third floor that increases the FSI and no one's going to see. And it's a first floor addition at the length and depth, but otherwise the second floor meets the 17 meters. So given that lack of evidence on impact, Mr. Chair, I really don't have anything else to say in response, but as always, I'm happy to answer questions from the committee.
Okay, now let's see what the committee have to say, if they have any questions. Any question for this speaker? No questions? Okay, if there is no questions, then can I have a motion, please? Mr. Klassen?
Yes, Mr. Chair. I appreciate the comments from the speakers, and I've driven past the property. I would move to approve this application. It is minor. It does meet the 4 tasks. I'll make it just subject to the staff report that the building length and depth be developed substantially in accordance with the site plan, and also it'll be subject to urban forestry. Thank you.
Thank you. Second? Mr. Bartolo, second? Oh, okay, I have 2 seconds. Mr. Bartolo and Miss Manning. Okay, so who wants to be the second? Mr. Bartolo or Miss Manning? Miss Manning. Okay, both of them. Okay, all in favor? All in favor? Opposed? Okay, Ms. Atarodi is opposing, and proposed by, the motion passed by Mr. Klassen and seconded by Ms. Manning, and all in favor is approved, subject to those conditions, and Ms. Atarodi is opposing. So, sir, your application is approved, subject to the staff report recommendation condition to developer site plan and condition of forestry.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you to the committee.
Okay. Application number 4, which is 161 Hillmount Avenue, application number 4. And here we have one speaker, Tay Raituk.
Good morning.
Rayuk, okay? Sorry if I pronounce your name wrong. Could you state your name and address, please?
Sure. Good morning. My name is Tay Rook, and I'm at 18 Yonge Street, Toronto, Ontario. I'm the planner for the owners of the property at 161 Hillmount.
Thank you. So we have here is a new dwelling with 7 variances. Staff report asking to build per site plan. We have 4 letters of support and a letter of objection. Okay, yeah, we need a small, we don't have any other person registered, but could you give us a very short presentation, please?
Sure. The proposal before you to facilitate a new construction of a new single detached home. There are variances related to lot coverage, building height, building length and depth, also side yard setback as well. There is presentation slides that I did provide to the committee, and one of which was showing a map, an area context map, which shows highlighted properties in purple, which represent properties that are less than the 1.2 meter side yard setback requirement. And that's found throughout this neighborhood within the same block and surrounding blocks as well. There's also on that same area context map, properties that have been indicated with green diamonds, which represent properties that have lot coverages greater than 35%. And you could also find those within the immediate and surrounding blocks as well. Furthermore, there have been 4 letters of support that have been submitted to the committee from 165, 159, and 159 Hillmount Avenue, in addition to 228 Viewmount Avenue, which is the street to the south of the subject property. The variance related to building length and building depth, essentially the building itself, the principal building itself, the majority of the building is 16.9789 meters. There is a 1-story bump out at the rear, in addition to a covered deck that facilitates the variances related to the building depth and length at 20.9 meters. This is an unenclosed structure. The deck is not covered the entire width of the deck. Rather, it's just a small portion towards the western portion of the subject site. In addition to that, there was a variance related to building height. And if you look at the elevations that were submitted to the committee, and they're redlined, you'll note that there's a small green portion that represents the extent of the portion that extends beyond the 10-meter mark. But you'll also note that there's dimensions on the side at 0.0406 meters on either side of the property. So the roof essentially has been recessed back from the main walls at the front, the side, and the rear. So the extent of that small sliver that you find at the top is mitigated by the fact that the roofs have actually been set back, or the pitch of the roof has been set back from the main walls and from the street by the 0.406 of a meter. You'll also note that there's 2 variances related to building height. So one of which is to the current bylaw 569-2013. And then the second variance related to building height is the old bylaw. And you'll note that there's that red dash line at the bottom of the same plan representing the center line of the property. And it's below the actual grade of which this house will be sitting on. So it's a bit of a technical variance in that regard. I do believe that this is a modest proposal. It is a reasonable proposal given the context of the neighborhood. There was a letter of opposition received from the immediate neighbor to the west at 163, which talked about having access to the rear yard, and because there's a window well that's situated on the right, on the west of the property. That window will have a grate over it, and to access the property, actually, we're going to be utilizing the eastern side or east side yard of this property for access to the rear. So there should be no impact to the immediate neighbor to 163. That's my presentation. If there's any questions, I'll be glad to answer them.
Thank you. Any question? If not, can I have a motion, please? Ms. Tarodi?
Yes, thank you. Through you, Mr. Chair. I had some question regarding the height and other things. Then applicant explain it, and therefore I would like to put forward a motion to approve this application with only one condition of the staff condition, that the property be developed substantially according with the site plan drawing submitted to Committee of Adjustment attachment number 1 of the report, and that's my motion.
Thank you. Second? Mr. I have 3 seconds. Mr. Klassen. Mr. Klassen seconding. All in favor? Okay. Sir, thank you. Sir, your application is unanimously approved, subject to the conditions.
Thank you very much.
Subject to the conditions of the staff. Okay, so we have number 5, which is 54 GLENFOREST Road. And this is, we have one speaker here. And the speaker is Drew Laszlo. Are you there?
Good morning. I'm Drew Laszlo, agent for the owner.
Thank you. And we have here a new dwelling, 5 variances, 2 letters of support. Members, do we need a presentation here? No? Okay, sir, we don't need a presentation. Do you want to say something before we move to the decision?
No, I think I'm good for the moment. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay. Is there a question, or if not, can I have a motion? Ms. Tarodi?
Yes, through you, Mr. Chair. I would like to ask for an explanation regarding the variance number 4. The proposed building depth is 20 meter 0.66 versus 17.
Yes, that extra, the 20.66 meters is measured to the rear of an excavated deck in the base, excavated deck under the deck, a basement extension, in other words. The above ground portion of the house conforms to the 17 meter length.
Perfect, thank you.
Thank you. Any other question? If not, can I have a motion, please? Mr. Bartolo?
Thank you, Mr. Chair, through you. I reviewed this application, and I think that what's being proposed is reasonable and fits in with the character of the neighborhood and the immediate context of development there. So I'm going to put forward a motion to approve this application.
Thank you. Yeah, there's no conditions. Second, Ms. Tarodi, all in favor? All in favor? Okay, thank you. Sir, your application is unanimously approved.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Item number 6, which is 228 Wilson Avenue, application number 6. And here we also have just one speaker, Tony Volpentesta. I hope I pronounced it well. Could you please state your name and address for us?
Sure, Mr. Chairman, you did a great job pronouncing my last name. It's Tony Volpentesta. I'm a partner at Bousfields. I'm a planning consultant. I appear before you on behalf of Greenland Holdings.
Okay, yeah.
I'd be glad to make a presentation.
Yes,
I can give you a 5-year history in 5 minutes, which I intend to do.
Yes, okay. So that's this is an application for 17-story apartment building. We have 6 variances, and the staff is asking for one. There is 3 conditions of the staff. 1 is a contribution, 2 is to build per site plan, and 3 is to get the site plan approval. And transportation is asking to defer. So could you please cover all those things here and see what the members have to say?
Certainly, sir. Good morning, everyone. When I said it's a 5-year history in 5 minutes, this is really a tale of how a bylaw, a site-specific bylaw, shrink wraps a development proposal, which results in the necessity to seek variances when a change in tenure is pursued or when architectural validation takes place. So I said the proposal has a long history. The original developer obtained approval in 2014, as you've indicated, Mr. Chairman, to permit a 17-story building. And at the time, the tenure was a condominium apartment building with a total of 108 dwelling units and 130 parking spaces within a 5-level below-grade garage. Since then, the ownership has changed. The proposed tenure has changed. We're looking at a rental building, which I hope we all understand is a good contribution to the supply of rental housing in the city. A site plan application was filed in 2017. So this application has a 5-year history with this applicant, working cooperatively with city planning and other city departments. The transition or the change in tenure has resulted in certain deficiencies between the revised site plan and the older site-specific North York bylaw. So we're really talking about how a development stacks up with a site-specific bylaw that was catered to reflect a specific proposal in time. For example, so taking in turn the 6 variances, and I will focus on, if I can get you to actually flip to slides 8 and 9 while I have my remarks, I'm just going to frame the other variances so I can make the best use of my, my 5 minutes. So in terms of variance number 1, the increase in number of dwelling units from 108 to 131, that's a result of the rental tenure change. The rental tenure change did result in a nominal increase in the number of units, but in terms of the 3-bedroom composition, I'm happy to report that we still meet the 10% 3-bedroom composition as included in the city's growing up guidelines. The GFA change between 11,000 square meters and 11,560 square meters, it should be front and foremost in the committee's mind that the previous bylaw, which prescribed a GFA maximum, was actually done erroneously, and that erroneous calculation was even acknowledged by the planning department. The overall GFA for the previous rezoning application was in excess of 12,000 square meters. The current proposal correctly accounts for GFA, so it's not like we're dramatically changing what the nature of the proposal was. It basically was a GFA error that was originally calculated. The setbacks that we're proposing, and the reason why I asked for pages 8 and 9 to be on screen, I noticed that there's a bit of a lack of clarity on the slide, but I'm directing you to two slides that put the proposal, the massing of the proposal compared to the approval. Yeah, if you could, if I can get you to go to PDF page 8, please. Thank you. I'll start there. Well, here's a visual description, the depiction and comparison of trying to convey a very kind of difficult to understand massing analysis. So the blue is what was approved. The white represents where portions of the building were shaved or removed. And then the green is the addition. This view is from the southeast. Wilson appears at the south edge of the frame of the picture. And if essentially the increase in GFA, if you will, or the massing is at the top end. If you go to the next page, it shows a very similar story in terms of where that additional GFA, it's really all about the green, and it's largely contained within the upper levels, or in this case, the west end of the building right along the highway. So the other things dealing with decrease in indoor amenity, we still meet the bylaw requirement of 2 square meters per unit. The decrease in parking supply has been fully vetted by the transportation department. It was substantiated by a parking analysis of proxy sites of other rental buildings, and the quantum of the deficiency has been deemed acceptable, subject to some additional information about transportation demand management. The loading space deficiency is really about the area in front of the loading space. It's not the loading space itself. The loading space is the correct dimension. And I know that the transportation department wanted some clarity around a maneuvering diagram. We think that observation by the transportation department was done in error. We'd be glad to correct that. But the support from the community planning division and the transportation division really is the culmination of that 5-year history. I'm now out of time. I'd be glad to answer questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you. So you're very good on your 5 minutes. So, okay, so members, any question on it? First, I have a question. The site plan approval that they're asking for, of course, is a standard thing. I understand this question was the rezoning and all that stuff. Now, did you comment on the contribution that they're asking for?
I have reviewed the contribution request, the $50,000 contribution request with my client. They're in agreement with that amount. It's an important connection and safety concern to provide safe passage from the future residents of this building to the south side of Wilson, and likewise would allow that to happen
for the expenses.
Safety point of view.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. So any question for this speaker? Mr. Klassen?
Yes, Mr. Chair, just a question about the transportation comments, which basically are saying that additional information is required before transportation can comment. So has that information been provided?
Put it this way, when you have an application that's gone through a 5-year site plan process, I'm shocked by that comment, but I'm confident that whatever information is necessary will be provided in the purview of a site plan application. We're talking about a label on a site plan that deals with the dimensions of a proposed loading space. That certainly is there, and there's no, in terms of a vehicle maneuvering diagram.
I was just asking the question, has that information been provided?
It is. It's in the drawings. It's in the drawing set. If what I see from the transportation department are basically additional information on transportation demand measures that deal with the parking reduction. The labeling of a loading space and an additional vehicle maneuvering diagram will, in the fullness of time, be fully resolved through the site plan process.
Yeah, the question is the transportation we're asking for to defer, but what you're saying is they want more information. So if the members agree, it can be made subject to transportation. Then they'll have to give them whatever information they need.
Yes, but it's peculiar. Their comment is to defer comments on the requested variance until the required additional information is there. I would ask this committee, be very sensitive to the fact that this is a 5-year protracted site plan approval process. The condition that should be placed on the transportation comments would be the variances are allowed subject to approval from the transportation department, not to defer this matter. This would be an undue penalty to something that we have gone above and beyond, offered to consult with the community, the local counselor's office, a 5-year site plan process. This type of condition that I'm respectfully requesting the committee to put on this is that the variances be approved subject to confirmation and approval from the transportation department.
Very good. So that's what you mentioned. Okay. All right. So any question? Any more questions? If not, can I have a motion, please? Ms. Atarodi?
Yes, to you, Mr. Chair. I would like to put forward a motion to approve this application as subjected to the staff tree condition that mentioned in the staff report dated 24th of February, the tree, and also subjected to approval of the transportation. That would be my motion.
Thank you. Second? Mr. Bartolo, second. All in favor? Opposed? Okay, I have 2 opposing and 2 for and 2 against. Okay, I went through this application and I saw the 6 variances. While they were very high, I had to agree with the agent here that this has been gone through. I saw the whole history of the rezoning and if they think is holding only on the transportation subject to transportation, will be addressed to by any information they need. As far as the staff, we look at the staff report, and they have three recommendations, three conditions, and if the motion has the three conditions and subject to transportation, I'll move with the motion and approve the application. So, sir, your application is approved, subject to the three conditions of the staff and subject to transportation.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Application number 7, which is 23 Northmount Avenue, application number 7. And here we have, again, just one speaker, who is Marco Vera. Are you there?
Good morning, Mr. Chair and members of the committee. I am. It's
Okay.
Marco Vieira at 257 Dunraven Drive.
Perfect. Okay, so we have here 2-story addition and a covered patio, 3 variances, minor, and staff reports to build per site plan. Members, do we need a presentation here? No? Okay, thank you. Sir, we don't need any presentation. Do you want to add something before we move to the decision?
To you, Mr. Chair, I believe the application is minor. The information that you have is, valid, and we think it's got its merit against the bylaw and the eviction plan.
Thank you. Okay, any question? Or if not, can I have a motion? Mr. Bartolo?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Through you, in reviewing this application, I do think it's minor and it meets the intent of the bylaw. I'm going to move to approve this application subject to the recommendation number 1 in the staff report dated 17th February 2022.
Thank you. Second? Ms. Tarodi, all in favor? Okay, unanimous. Thank you. Your application is unanimously approved, subject to the staff recommendation to build per site plan. Application number...
Members of the committee, good day.
Okay, have a nice day. Application number 8, which is 103 Sandringham, application number 103. And here we have Sandra Gava. I hope I pronounce it well. Sandra Gava, are you there? We have just the agent who's registered here, Sandra Gava. Do you know? Is she online?
Mr. Chair, Sandra is online, but unfortunately, I'm unable to see if her mic is on or not. So maybe if she signs out and then allows access to her mic when she signs back in.
Okay. Do you want to reach her now, or we should table it?
Let's go to the next item.
Okay. So we'll table it. Could you please remind me when she comes back? We have number 9. Number 9, which is 98 Yorkview, application number 9, 98 Yorkview Drive, application number 9. And here we have the agent, Jonathan Penskowski. Are you there?
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Okay, could you please state your name and address for us?
Yes, Jonathan Menskowski, 301 Kiwaton Avenue.
Okay, so we have here, it's a new dwelling, 9 variances, staff report to build per east and west side drawings, and we have 2 letters of objection, and we have another person who is registered here as a resident. So could you please make a small presentation, and then we'll hear from the neighbor.
Yeah, absolutely. If we could bring up one of the side elevations, please. I think the 2 kind of main issues deal with the building length as well as the side main wall heights. In terms of the building length, it's entirely reasonable on a dwelling that has a depth of 175 feet So again, 175-foot depth lot, that it is appropriately able to accommodate an increase of building length. Now, that being said, the rear yard setback that is proposed with the increased building length is still 88 feet 10 or 27 meters. So we're talking essentially an additional 20 meters of how the bylaw envisions a rear yard setback of 7.5 meters. So the appropriateness of the building length, taking into account that increase of depth of the lot, in my opinion, is able to accommodate this dwelling. That being said, the coverage then is only a 0.86 requested increase from the 30% that is allowed. Now, if we could again turn to the side elevation, what we see here is the side elevation. The portions that are requesting the increase in height are the front portion that faces the street itself. The actual main wall height that addresses the adjacent neighbors both to the east and the west in the rear yard is as per the zoning bylaw. So where we see W12 at the second floor, that is as per the zoning bylaw of 7.5 meters. So there are two projections that come out the front of the dwelling that cause that increase in height. And if we can go to the second side elevation, please, I believe it's the next one. We see here that the west. What we see here is the request there that is for two middle windows on the second floor. Again, that projection, as it would address the neighbors in the rear, is as per the zoning bylaw. So that impact is felt between the two houses, not in that rear amenity space. Again, that is, I believe, 27 meters. In terms of side yard setbacks, they're supposed to be 1.52 on either side. In my opinion, that's an appropriate setback, as well as separation between the dwellings to both the east and the west, and allows for access to the rear yard. And then the height variances under the old North York, again, are basically measured from the crown of the road, which, in my opinion, is not an appropriate way to measure height because it is not the true height of the dwelling itself. And I'm happy to answer any questions you might have right now.
Thank you. So we have one more speaker here. I will come back to you. We have more speaker here. Steve Lim, are you there?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I'm here.
Okay, can you please
my name is
can you
Steve.
please state your name and address so it can be recorded on the line here?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. My name is Steve Lim. I'm a resident of 100 Yorkview Drive, North York, Ontario.
Thank you. So tell us what your concern about this application.
Mr. Chairman, my concern is the west side setback and the height of the building. Now, the presenter may have explained it, but I don't have a clear understanding of it. My understanding from the letter that was sent to us from your committee, Mr. Chairman, is that the maximum height is 0.75 meter, but the proposed height is 9.28 meters. That's a 25% increase. Also, the bay window on the west side is 0.86 meters, and from what I know on the letter, the permitted is only 0.6 meters, which is a 43% more than allowed. I don't think these are minor variances. And also the west side setback is only 1.52 meters as opposed to the required of 1.8. If I understand correctly, the height and the setback would limit our direct sunlight as neighbors to the west of 98 Yorkview. Also, if I understand correctly, and maybe I need clarification, but the combined exception of items 6 and 7 of the variance would leave only 0.6 meters of access way. So I am concerned that moving forward, that people would be using our property to access the backyard of 98 Yorkview.
Okay, are you?
Thank you.
Thank you. Hold a second. Any question for the speaker? No? Okay, we'll have the agent come back and explain those questions. Okay, Mr. Benzowski, could you please respond to that question from the neighbor?
Absolutely. Could we bring up the second floor, please? So the request for the bay window is for a washroom area on the second floor. That projection is above, obviously, grade being located on the second floor, as we see there. So that is, again, only for a washroom on the second floor. It would not restrict any access or require access from anybody else's property. That 1.52 meter separation that is being requested is essentially on the ground. Now, to go back to the question that related to the height request is for the side main wall heights. And if we go back to that side elevation, we can see that the rear portion, as it would take and affect any impact of sunlight or privacy, is as per the zoning bylaw. So the request for that increase is for a projection at the front of the dwelling, not at the rear. The rear portion of the dwelling is as per the zoning bylaw for the main wall height. And again, in my opinion, 1.52 meters is definitely an appropriate separation between dwellings, which is essentially a little bit over 5 feet. And I think those are really the two concerns of the neighbor.
Thank you. Any question for this agent? If not, can I have a motion, please? Anyone? Mr. Klassen?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. I've listened closely to the presentation and the concerns of the neighbor, and I'm going to follow the staff recommendation, which is to approve this application and to make it subject to being developed substantially in accordance with the side east and the side west elevation drawings that were submitted. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Second? Mr. Bartolo seconding, Mr. Klassen first, and Mr. Bartolo second. All in favor? Okay, thank you. Unanimously. Sir, your application unanimously approved, subject to the staff condition to build per east and west side elevation drawings.
Thank you.
Okay, is she there? Okay, so we'll call back number 8, which is 103 Sandringham Road, Sandringham Drive, and application number 8. And here we have...
Hello?
Yeah, okay, so we have you here. Number 8, which is Sandra, right? Sandra Gava?
Hi, Sandra Gava. Apologies for my earlier microphone
Okay,
issue.
very good. So can you please state your name and address for the record to be recorded online here?
Sandra Gava, 31 Chamberlain Avenue.
Thank you. And we have here a rear cabana, one variance only, and one letter of concern. I have nothing else. Members, do we need a presentation here? No? Okay. We don't need a presentation. Do you want to say something before we move to the condition, to the question?
No, I believe the application is minor and here to answer any staff questions.
Thank you. So we'll move to the decision. Members, if there's no question, can I have a motion, please? Ms. Atarodi?
Yes, through you, Mr. Chairs, I also believe that this is a very minor application and made for test. Therefore, I would like to, through you, Mr. Chair, would like to put forward a motion to approve this application with no conditions.
No conditions. Thank you. Second? Ms. Manning, seconding. All in favor? Okay, unanimously. Unanimously approved your application, and there is no conditions.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Okay, number 10, which is 24 Parkhurst Boulevard, application number 10. And here we have, for number 10, we have, the agent is Adam Brander. Are you there?
Good morning, Mr. Chair and committee members. My name is Adam Brander, and my address is 49 Bolton Avenue in Toronto. I'm the agent and the architect for the proposal at 24 Parkhurst Boulevard.
Thank you. So we have here the two-story rear addition, 5 variances, 1 letters of support, and transportation has no objection. But we have here 2 more speakers, two residents, and because of the 2 residents, we need you to make a short presentation, please, and then we'll see what they have to say.
Certainly. This application is on behalf of a longstanding homeowner in the community who is seeking to stay in the neighborhood she has grown fond of raising her family in. She is seeking to make improvements to the property, which include updating the interior and expanding the house at the rear to suit growing space needs for her family. Important to the homeowner is largely maintaining the built form vernacular as it faces the street, as she appreciates it the way it is. I'm here to request relief for 5 variances. 1 variance looks at a floor space index of 0.65, where 0.6 is permitted as of right. A difference of 0.05 would seem minor. This variance is not paired with a related height or building depth variance or building length variance, which would further support its view as minor and supportable. The proposed building depth is approximately 2 meters less than what is permitted, and the height of the house at the perimeter is 2.5 meters less in height than the maximum permitted height. And so this speaks a bit further to the modestness and appropriateness of the proposal. On the east side of the house, in order to align with the addition seamlessly with the existing house, there are 2 minor variances that would apply. 1, the existing side wall setback of 0.45 meters would apply to extend at the rear. And 2, an eaves setback variance would apply to tie in the existing maintained front roof line cohesively. Preserving these conditions can be seen as desirable and appropriate. On the west side, a 0.9 meter setback is proposed where 1.2 meters is prescribed. One first thing to note, this dimension is based off the prescribed minimum lot frontage of 12 to 15 meters, as noted. But if we look at our subject site, the existing frontage is 9.14 meters, or about 75% of the zoned lot. And scaling back the side setback proportionally based on a lesser existing frontage would be an appropriate interpretation to suit the existing subject site. Additional considerations on this setback are that the 0.9 meter setback still allows for rear yard access via the exterior. There are numerous lesser side setbacks common locally. Building and fire safety concerns with respect to adjacent properties are preserved. And the extent of the sidewall itself is confined to adjacency to the neighboring sidewall only. So there's no projections into either front or rear yard areas, which those areas might be considered more impactful. A 5th variance is for the width of the parking space. Providing a parking space beside a house is an increasingly common in this neighborhood. Research package shared in the support material shows numerous conditions such as this, where reduced parking space width is supportable when maintaining the existing house structure alongside. I'd refer to the transportation report on file as well, as it states the proposed parking space does not pose any operational issues. I'd like to further embrace this proposed move as it eliminates the long undesirable hardscape paving through to the rear yard. It allows for removal of the rear yard ancillary building, thereby reducing the coverage on the lot. And it allows to concentrate the house footprint between neighboring houses as opposed to push beyond. And this benefits each neighbor's rear yard condition with mitigated impediment. The homeowner did consult with both next door neighbors in advance of the application. And this communication did yield a support letter from 26 Parkhurst. Though it's understood some concerns did not find full resolution with 22 Parkhurst. And so with the aforementioned supporting reasonings, some neighbor support, no concerns from planning, no concerns from transportation services, felt this is a reasonable proposal for variances that are independently and collectively minor in nature and the application meets the 4 tests. These are my initial submissions in support of the application. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll see what the other residents have to say. We have here, the next speaker is Catherine Gracie. Are you there? Catherine Gracie.
Hello.
Hi.
Hello.
Hi, could you please?
My name is Catherine Gracie. I'm supposed to be speaking to 116 Strathgowan Boulevard, not 24 Parkhurst.
Okay.
So I don't know why I was good.
Just a second.
So that's at 2 o'clock this
Hold it.
afternoon on number 21.
Excuse me, hold a second. We're confused a little bit. We are in the application 24 Parkhurst Boulevard. Do you want to speak on this this application? No?
No, I'm supposed to be speaking on 116 Strathgowan Boulevard, which is scheduled for 2 o'clock this afternoon. And I believe there was a scheduling mistake.
Okay, the staff will. Okay, the staff will address that. So we'll go to.
Thank you.
Thank you. We'll go to the next one, who's Barb Dorpat and Bruce Waite. Are you there?
Me.
Hello?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah, are you Barb? Yeah? Could you please state your name and address, please?
Yes, sir. My name is Barbara Dorpat. I'm at 20 Parkhurst Boulevard in East York.
Right. So tell us, please, what's your concern about this application?
Thank you, Chairman, and thank you, committee members, for letting me speak. I have spoken to the resident at 24 Parkhurst because I was not aware of this development, this proposed renovation happening. Sort of shocked to find out that it was happening just 2 weeks ago. So generally, I'm just concerned about the lack of light that is going to impact our home on the east side. We will have one room that'll be entirely in darkness now, and it'll impact our backyard. I am very happy that the resident is remaining in the neighborhood, but nevertheless, this structure is going to impact our residents, even though the architect has said that the extension is minimum and the height is minimum. Well, every minimum creeping of these dimensions affect the neighbors. You know, it's like the Lay's potato chip commercial. If you give one to one, you'll have to give one to everybody else. So I'm here just to speak my mind. I'm concerned about the bump out on the east side of the dwelling and the underpinning that's going to be occurring, because basically it means that another dwelling is going to be looking right into someone's wall. So those are generally my concern about that extra length of the proposed dwelling and the height, and how that overshadows our residents. Thank you very much.
Okay. Yeah, you're right. Your question is very general. Now we have 5 variances in front of us. Can you pinpoint which variance you're concerned about? Because if they didn't have these variances, they wouldn't be here. You wouldn't be here. We wouldn't be here. So they
yes, I understand, sir.
Okay, so
I guess it would be number 1, the maximum floor space, bylaw number 569-20.
Okay.
13.
Okay.
And then the bylaw number 569-2013, chapter 10.20.40.70.
And
I guess it's a side yard setback.
Okay. And you think those are going to disturb your lights, right? Do you disturb your lights?
Yes, sir. And just, when we look outside, we won't be able to see the sky on the east side of the house. We're just going to have this extension.
Okay. All right. So let's see if the members have any question to you. Any question for this speaker? Yeah, Miss Manning. We don't hear you.
Sorry, you said that there was one window in particularly that was affected. Can you give us more information on where that window is? From what type
Yes, on the east side of our house, there is an upstairs bedroom. There'll be no light coming into that bedroom at all now because of the length of the extension. Number 22 has a flat roof on their back room, so it allows light. 24's extension will block out all that morning light. Also on our main floor, we have a little I don't know what it's called, the little room off the dining room, a tandem. So there are windows facing east on that side. So the light will be affected into that room on the main room too.
Any other
Thank you.
question? Any other question?
Plus our backyard. I mean, it'll affect the light in the backyard in the morning.
Yeah,
So,
thank you for answering that question. I'm asking the members any other
Thank you.
question. No? Okay, so we'll call back the agent. Could you please come and address the concern of the speaker here?
Certainly, through you, Mr. Chair, it's understood that this speaker is speaking from 20 Parkhurst, so the window in question appears to be about 11 to 12 meters away from the proposed side wall, 2 properties away. So limited impact, certainly. And just a correction that there's no bump out on the east wall, it's actually on the west wall, but just a point of correction there. And it's felt that the impact on beyond adjacent neighbors is minimal at best.
Thank you. So any question for this agent? If not, can I have a motion then, please? Mr. Klassen?
Yes, Mr. Chair, thank you. I appreciate the comments from both the applicant and from the neighbor, and in balance that this is a minor application, and so I'd like to move to approve the application without any conditions.
Thank you. Second? Mr. Tarodi? Oh.
No, I just would like to remind Mr. Klassen that we also have a report from transportation.
It said transportation, no objection. My
Okay,
note said no objection.
Yeah,
You-
I know. I saw it's no objection, but normally we don't attach it to the transportation, correct?
If there is no objection, no objection. If you want, you
Then,
want to.
now then I'll second it.
Okay.
No, I redraw it and I second it.
Okay. Mr. Klassen is having the motion, and Ms. Attarodi is seconding. All in favor? Okay, thank you. Unanimous. Okay, sir, your application is unanimously approved, and we don't see any conditions.
Thank you.
Okay, number 11, application number 11, which is 141 Buckingham Avenue, application number 11.
Mr. Chair, the area resident who's also registered is having a bit of technical difficulties.
So
So
we'll
how
go to
about
the
we
next one.
stand this one down to the end of the time slot, just so that we have a cohesive application?
So we'll go to the next one, huh?
Yes, that would be
Okay.
perfect. Thank
And
you.
we'll hold this one. Thank you. Okay, so we're gonna stand down number 11. So we go to number 12, which is 134 Victory Drive, application number 12. And here we have the agent. Well, it said Mr. Mustafa Khalil. Are you there?
Oh, hi. Good
Hi.
afternoon. Sorry. Good morning.
Are
Good
you?
morning, Chairman and committee.
Okay, can you please state
my
your...
name is Mustafa Khalil. I'm presenting the client for 134 Victory
Okay,
Drive.
and your own address is what? 3461?
134 Victory Drive.
Victory Drive, thank you. Okay, no, that's 134 Victory Drive. Your own address is what? Is Dixie Road?
Oh, sorry, my own address. I'm calling from 2MK Architect, 3461 Dixie Road, Mississauga.
Thank you.
Unit 504.
Perfect. Okay, so this application here is for a front yard parking pad. We have 3 variances. Forestry has condition, 1 letter of objection, and transportation has no objection. Now, because we have one more speaker here, we need you to make a presentation, please. Make a 5-minute presentation as to the merit of your application, and then we see what the neighbor have to say.
Okay, thank you. So can I get the site plan or the Google map? So here we are proposing a front yard parking for the property. Currently, there is a driveway that's shared between this property and the neighbor. And what we are proposing is direct access to these 2 parking spots on the front yard. This will help in reduce the traffic to the sharing driveway. And also it's in the merit of the street because there is many residents on that area, on that street. They have the same, which is, I can say 135 and 137, Victory Drive, 133 and 131, and 116, 118, 112, 114. So all of these are, they have this the same we are proposing. And hopefully we can get the approval from the committee.
Okay, thank you. We'll get you back after we hear the next speaker. Next speaker is Victoria Franzoy. Are you there? Victoria Franzon. Okay, can you please state your name and address for us?
Yes, it is Victoria Franzoy. I live at 124 Victory Drive.
Okay, could you please tell us what's your concern about this application?
My concern for this application is that I believe the original permit was for a 2-family dwelling. We currently have, I believe, more than 2 families residing. The front yard was already dug out. There's currently a vehicle parked in there. There's more than 4 vehicles parked on the driveway. One happens to be a U-Haul truck. There is a garage at the back of the house, which can be allocated to 1 driver. And the driveway can fit up to 4 vehicles. So what I'd like to know is how many vehicles does this 2-family dwelling require?
Okay, is that your question?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, let's, any question for the speaker before we get the agent? No? Okay, Mr. Khalil?
Yeah.
Okay, you heard the concern of this application.
I understand the concern of the lady in terms of what approved in the permit is 1 main dwelling unit and 1 secondary unit. Now, in terms if there is anything that more than that, I advise my client, this is not part of our application. If anything that I advise my client to deal with the city by submitting a permit if needed, or rectify the matter, just keep 1 + 1. In terms of the driveway, the problem with the driveway, because there is an objection letter from the neighbor that affected by this driveway. This driveway, he's saying that he needs to move his car in the driveway to allow either the owner or the tenant to park their car. So I think by implementing this proposed parking on the front yard, this will gonna solve the matter.
Okay. Now, the question here is is front yard parking permit required by the city in this street?
We submit the application to the city, and it was mentioned there's no permit, just a zoning certificate, and the deficiency was brought to us, and that's why we went to the committee of adjustment.
Okay. Okay, thank you. Any questions for this gentleman? If no question, Mr. Bartolo, question or motion?
Question, Mr. Chair.
Sorry?
Question.
Question, please go ahead. Please go ahead.
Yeah. How many units are in this building?
There is 1 + 1.
1 + 1.
Yeah.
There's 5 hydrometers on it. That's why I'm asking.
Sorry?
There's 5 hydrometers on it. That's why I'm asking.
So I'm not aware of that. Like as I said, if there is anything about that there is more than what approved by the city, I advise my client we have to work with the city in terms of a permit needed or rezoning, or he has to remove the extra tenant if there is anything. Like I'm here just presenting him for the drive.
No, I understand you're here for the parking pad, and what he's done with the property is not necessarily your business. I get it.
Yeah,
I'm just sometimes you can. I don't like disingenuous applications, and sometimes things don't smell right. That's why I'm asking.
Okay.
Okay, and so any other question? If not, can I
Nope,
have?
that's all for me, Mr. Chair.
Okay, can I have a motion then, please? Mr. Klassen?
Yes, Mr. Chair. And before us is the application in regards to parking, so that's what I will deal with. And there aren't objections from transportation or from planning, so I'll move to approve the application. Thank you.
Thank you. And second? Do you have second? No? Okay, the motion failed. Can I have another motion then? Members, I need a motion. I have one motion to approve, and I called for the second. Are you still thinking about second, or do you have an? Yes?
I'll second that motion.
Okay, so Ms. Tarodi is seconding, Mr. Clark.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes?
Mr. Chairman, we need a new motion because you said the motion failed. So can I have a new motion?
Well, Mr. Klassen, first we said the motion failed. Do you want to renew your motion?
I will move to approve this application.
Thank you. And Ms. Tarodi is seconding it. All in favor? Opposed? Okay, we have 2 for and 2 opposing. Now, we, based on the variances that I see here, and based on the permit parkings that are in the area, whether required by the city or not, and the place has 2 units and the 2 car, whatever. So I vote with the motion and approve the application, and there is no conditions. So, sir, the application is approved and there is no conditions.
Thank you, sir.
Mr. Chair, I wonder if we could have a short recess?
Absolutely. So we'll have a 10 minutes recess here, and we'll be right back.
Thank you.
Okay, members, we go back to number 11 that we skipped before. And here we have Mr. Lone Rose. Are you there? What do you mean one member? Yeah. Okay. Yeah, this is. We have two members here. Yeah, no, three. I'm here, three. So, from our. All right, so we have number 11, which is 141 Buckingham Avenue. And here we have Lorne Rose. Are you there?
Oh.
Yeah?
Yeah, I'm here.
Yeah, I know who you are, but could you please state your name and address because it has to be recorded online?
Yeah, sure. Lauren Rose, 388 Spadina Road.
Thank you.
Sorry, I didn't realize you're going back to 11.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you. This is to expand the basement level and excavating the area under the porch. There's only 4 variances, and staff report is asking to develop her site plan. That's all I have here, but we have one more speaker, and because of that, we need you to make a small presentation, please.
Sure. This is a property we did years ago, and I didn't realize it, but they did excavate under the porch, and they changed the landscaping, the walkout a little bit. So we're just trying to legalize that. The porch was always there. It just wasn't excavated. So we now require a length of dwelling variance and setbacks to the porch. And it increased the coverage because excavated porches are counted in length and in coverage. So we're just trying to legalize something that was built.
Okay. All right. So let's see what the other speaker has to say, and we'll get you back. And we'll have here William Jean. Are you there? William Jean. Is he online? Mr. Jean, are you there? Mr. William Jean, are you there? Try one more time and then we may have to move on. Mr. William Jean, are you there? Again, Mr. Jean, are you there?
Okay. Mr. Chair, I see that William has come in by his phone number. Maybe we'll have to hold this one down then, have him dial back in again. And
well, I think we should try him again to call. If he's not there, we'll have to move on.
He is present, but and I have unmuted him, but we cannot hear anything from William at this moment.
Mr. Jean, do you hear us?
Hi, William.
Okay.
Yeah, William's here. Sorry, I had technical issues.
Yeah, okay. Can you please state your name and address for us so we can move on?
Yeah. Thank you. William Jean. Address is 64 Milden Hall. I'm the direct neighbor to 141 Buckingham.
Okay. Tell us what you're concerned about this application.
I just want to hear more on the details to that because I'm again the direct neighbor on one side of the house, so I just want to understand, the implications and the variances that they're looking for.
You just want to understand the variances. Okay, so we'll have the agent explain them. Any other question?
No, thank you.
Okay, any question for this speaker? No. Okay, Mr. Rose, this gentleman wants to know what the variances are. Can you just give an explanation?
Sure. So the original permit, which was many, many years ago, was for an unexcavated porch. So this is the area that's underground. So because when you excavate a porch, it now counts in length and coverage. The new owner has to go to committee of adjustment to legalize those things. So it's increased the length and depth of the house. There's no impact on the neighbors or the neighborhood, other than the worms have less space to crawl. I don't know what else to say. So that's the only impact. The setback is the same as the house, and it was granted by the committee of adjustment. All the drawings above grade look exactly the same. It's just that they excavated the porch.
Okay.
That's why we have to come back.
And the staff is asking to build per site plan, so we have no problem with that because it's existing, you say, right?
Yeah, the house was built like 5 years ago.
Okay. All right. Let's see what the members have to say. Any question for this speaker, Ms. Satarodi?
Yes, I would like to ask the applicant to clarify the variance number 4. I understand that this is due to the excavation of area under the porch. So the east side setback 1.2 meter is also as a result of excavation, or it's missing variance?
No, I actually don't agree that that's there because the existing house was approved with 1.2 meters way back. I didn't want to argue with the examiner, but for a porch, I think what he's missed here is that a porch also has to have a 1.2 meter side yard setback. When this house went to committee, it went to OMB, I believe, because it had below grade garages. It always had a 1.2 meter side yard setback. So I don't know why that's there, but the site plan's there and it was built according to what was approved way back when.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Any other question? And if not, can I have a motion then, please? Ms. Satarodi?
Yes, through you, Mr. Chair, I was satisfied with the answer, and through you, I would like to put forward a motion to approve this application and also subjected to the one following condition that staff recommended that the building length and depth develop substantially accordance with the site plan drawing attached to the report of this application.
Thank you. Second, Mr. Klassen, all in favor? Okay, unanimously. Sir, unanimously approved, subject to the condition of the staff to develop per site plan.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Now, number 12 we did, and number 13 is 132 GLENCAIRN Avenue, application 132, and here we have Tay Rayok. Are you there?
Yes, sir, I'm here.
Tay Rayok. Okay, could you please state your name and address for us?
Sure. My name is Tay Rook. I am the planner for the owners of 132 GLENCAIRN Avenue. I'm at 18 Yonge Street.
Okay, so this is for a new dwelling. We have 8 variances. There is some letters of objections here, 8 letters, including Lytton Park Residence Organization. And because we have 2 more speakers, we'd like you to make a small presentation, please.
Sure, sir. Let me start by saying that we are eliminating 3 variances from the list of 8 that's before you. So we're eliminating variance number 1.
Okay.
Variance number 6.
Yeah.
And variance number 8.
Okay, so number 1, number 6, and number 8 are eliminated.
Correct.
Thank you. So please go ahead.
So now before the committee is 5 variances. The first related to main wall height, building length, FSI, west side yard setback, and the eave setback on the west side as well. What you see before you is an area context map, and you see the green properties that have been highlighted in green, which represent those properties that have FSIs greater than 0.35 in terms of for the lot area. What you find throughout this neighborhood on the immediate block and throughout the block are FSIs as high as up to 0.81. In the immediate block itself, there's a 115 at 0.81, 109 at 0.68, and in addition to that, at 211, there's a numerous range of variances that range from 0.4 to all the way up to 0.81 in this area. What you find in terms of this particular house is that you have a house that complies with the overall building height at 10 meters. There is a main wall height variance for this project, but you'll see in the pictures that I've submitted to you, you find that there are a range of heights in terms of newer homes, existing homes, or previously older homes in the area with different roof lines, eaves, trough lines, different types of roof types in terms of architectural styling and massing. And this is something that's characteristic and common found throughout on GLENCAIRN, GLENGROVE, Alexandra Boulevard, and through other streets in this neighborhood as well. For example, when you look at the west, in addition to that, there's variances related to, and you look at pictures such as the on GLENCAIRN at 115 and 110 and 112, you have houses that look similar to the architectural styling that's being proposed on this particular site as well. So this is nothing that would be out of character or inconsistent with the pattern of development that has occurred or that is existing, which makes the actual characteristics of this neighborhood as well. The second map that you see is the properties that have less than 0.9 of a meter setback in terms of the side yards, and you find that the majority of the properties within this neighborhood on the immediate block and throughout the neighborhood as well don't meet the side yard setback requirements within this area. And we're just repeating that pattern on that one particular side on the west side, where it's at 0.61 versus 0.9, a 0.29 meter difference, or 29 centimeters difference from the bylaw. But once again, you'll note that it repeats the pattern of development that is occurring in the area. The building length itself is 18.29 meters. You'll note on the site plan where you have the rear wall of the proposed is in line with the adjacent rear wall of the adjacent dwelling, and it represents that small green portion of the property that is of the house that is extending beyond the 17-meter mark. You'll also note that the front walls of the properties are consistent with the adjacent dwellings as well. So we're not looking to extend this building further back or forward, or to create a building that's taller than what is existing in the area. Because as I noted earlier, we do comply with the overall height of the bylaw. Once again, this is an appropriate form of development for the site. It is respectful towards the neighboring properties in the sense that the house has been deployed on the property in a way that is in line with the front and rear walls. You'll note that the variances related to the rear deck and platforms have been eliminated to ensure that any concerns of privacy and views into the adjacent properties have been eliminated. And what we're proposing in the rear yard in terms of decks and platforms is something that's as of right, and should not be any issues, or any issues resulting from those decks and platforms is something that's anticipated by the bylaw, and it is deemed acceptable. This does meet the 4 tests of the Planning Act, and I do believe it's a meritorious application. You'll also note that there was no reports or comments from any departments from planning or otherwise indicating that there's any concerns regarding these applications. So if there's any questions, I'll be glad to answer them at this time.
Thank you. We'll get you back after we hear from the neighbors. And the neighbor here, sure. we have Christine Mao and Michael Barton. Are you there?
Yes, this is Michael.
Okay, can you please state your name and address for us?
Yes, it's Michael Barton.
Your own address. I know you're going to speak on behalf of 136 GLENCAIRN, but we want you to tell us your own address.
So my address is 1489 Abbeywood Drive in Oakville, L6M2M6. I am speaking as a representative, the owner of 136 GLENCAIRN.
Okay, so please tell us what their concern is.
Absolutely. So I've submitted a written submission as well that's before you. So as those I've outlined in that document, my opinion is that the 4 tests of the Planning Act are not satisfied by this application. The site plan that was submitted with the application does show the change in footprint and the consequential reduction in setbacks and an increase in floor area relative to the existing conditions on the property. So a dwelling that was built as of right on this property would significantly alter the existing conditions relative to the property today. So it's just a point to keep in mind that we do hear this discussion about as of right permissions. And in this case, I believe building to the as of right would result in a significant change from the current conditions on the property. So the effect of the minor variances that are requested is to allow a new dwelling to be constructed that is considerably larger in massing and coverage of the subject property than under existing conditions. So this is going to change the relationship of the property, not only to the overall community, but the directly abutting lands, including my client's property. You're going to see that the proposed reductions to the setbacks in conjunction with the requested increases in height on the sidewalls and the overall massing is going to result in adverse impacts to the neighboring properties. So there is clear intent on the site plan to show alignment of the rear wall, particularly with 136 GLENCAIRN. However, this isn't taking into consideration that 136 GLENCAIRN steps down in height as it moves to the rear yard. So it has a 1-story height at that rear wall, as opposed to the proposal that is showing the full massing extending to that length. The removal of the variances that have been identified here for the deck and the platform, again, the concern with the deck largely related to the length of the building anyways, because it allowed the deck to project beyond the as of right permission of the zoning bylaw. And also, I think it's appropriate to have a drawing that shows what this would look like once the deck was brought within compliance with the zoning bylaw. So in general, my opinion is that the variances and the overall proposal don't conform to the general, or sorry, maintain the general purpose and intent of the official plan. It won't respect or reinforce the existing physical character of the community. You're going to see a significant increase in built form massing beyond the existing condition, which will be a significant change to not only the neighborhood, but my client's property. The prevailing zoning regulations, as I indicated, will allow a much larger dwelling to be constructed here. And with the length pulled back to what's permitted under the zoning, any concerns, the concerns related to that deck are also mitigated. So not just a reduction in the size of the deck itself, but where it begins at the rear wall of the dwelling. So it's the privacy and comfort of the rear yard amenities of the directly abutting properties that we're concerned about. And it's not just the length of the building, but it's the combination of the length with the sidewall heights, with the increased floor area, and then not having to have having side yard setbacks that help to mitigate those variances. So this is a relatively small lot. It's in a zone that allows for smaller lots than the surrounding area. So when I looked at this is definitely a pocket where the immediate context applies versus that broader context. So it's my opinion that the development proposal and the requested minor variances do not maintain the general purpose and intent of the zoning. Either the massing is going to result in land use and built form character that is not compatible with the directly abutting neighbors. It's going to result in adverse impacts to their rear yard and dwelling privacy and comfort. It's also worth noting that while this is technically a 2-story dwelling, the basement is going to project above grade, so it'll have a feel of larger, higher than a 2-story dwelling. So in my opinion, these variances are also not minor in nature, and they're not desirable for this property or the neighborhood, given the impact to the character and the lack of consideration for the overall size and context of the property. Again, just to close up, the comments regarding the characteristics of the broader area. Again, you must look at this context. This is a small property. You can't pull in individual isolated characteristics from other properties and say it's a reason to apply here. So cumulative and individually, these variances do not meet the tests.
Okay, thank you. In your comments, did you consider number 1, 6, and 8 were removed, right?
Well, that was new to, I believe, these proceedings here today. So I've considered it now in my comments. Again, it doesn't address the overall concerns that we have with the proposal as it relates to the size of the lot and its context with the surrounding properties.
Okay, thank you. Now, you're talking on behalf of 136 GLENCAIRN. Who's Christine Moore?
Christine is the owner of that property. She had requested to speak as well if the committee would hear her. But I did speak on
generally you have to share the 5 minutes, but it's okay, we'll hear. Is she around? Christine Moore?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay,
I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes. Do you agree with Mr. Barton, what he says? And if you have anything additional, please tell us what you want to say.
Sure. I would just like to add a little bit of context. I am Christine Ma. I live at 136 Glencairn Avenue, which is the home immediately to the west of 132. Michael has spoken to sort of some of the more technical issues of this application. I just want to add a little bit more context as a neighbor and as a community member. My family and I have lived in our house for close to 20 years, and we've raised our 3 children here. We moved to this neighborhood because we loved its character and that it hadn't been overrun with teardowns and monster homes. In fact, most of the homes in this neighborhood tend to be respectfully renovated and restored. Unfortunately, new development is starting to take hold in our neighborhood, but it is still the exception and not the norm. The proposed new home build at 132 Glencairn does not meet the test for a minor variance. You'll see that the developer is asking for 8, but surprise now, 5 variances in total. Taken together, the cumulative impact of these variances, including the removal of 3 of the variances, is excessive and do not take do not reflect the prevailing character of the community and specifically our block. Just to sort of put a finer point on what Michael has said, please note that this lot, as well as the lots on either side of 132, are smaller. And so the cumulative impact of these variances is further amplified by the small footprint of the property. Our specific concerns are the FSI of the proposed house, which is substantially bigger than houses on the block. The combined impact of the excessive FSI combined with the sidewall height, the reduced side yard setback, the reduced eaves setback, and the excessive length will result in an oversized structure with excessive massing and scale, which does not respect nor reinforce the prevailing character of our block. It does not maintain the intent of the official plan nor the zoning bylaw. It will impact the neighboring properties. Quite simply, this house is too big in its volume. The proposed sidewall height of 8.46 meters is substantially taller than permitted and does not respect the prevailing character of the street. The tall sidewalls accommodate a basement garage with a first floor stacked on top that is more than 8 feet above ground. This is not the prevailing character of the street. The proposed 6.6 meter west side setback represents a 32% reduction from the required setback. The requested eave setback of 0.15 meters on the west side is half of the required setback. The requested west side setback and west eave setback are not reflective of the prevailing character of the block, where houses are generously spaced, often with driveways between the houses. The west wall and the eaves of our houses will effectively touch. Most specifically, I want to speak to the deck. The combined impact of a tall deck, which has an excessive depth and an insufficient side yard setback, will impact the privacy and enjoyment of our backyard. Just to put this in context, the deck will be 8 feet off the ground. That is higher than our privacy fence. So even with the reduction in the deck that has been proposed this morning, we still will have a deck where the neighbors will be effectively peering down into our back patio. I do also want to just talk to the length that was pointed to by the developer's representative today. And just to kind of further reiterate what Michael said, yes, our house extends further back, and the proposed development aligns with the rear of our house, but our house steps back as it goes from the first floor to the second floor, and then the roof line cuts back as it goes up to the third floor, which was done in deference to the neighbors and making sure that the mass and the volume of the house did not feel oppressive, and maintain ability to have light and skyscape. So what I'd like to say is, in summary, the total impact of these proposed variances are neither minor nor desirable. The zoning bylaw intent has not been maintained. The proposal, in my opinion, does not meet the four-part test and should be refused. Thank you.
Thank you. Any question for the speaker? No? Okay, the next speaker is Michael Johnson. Are you there?
I am.
Okay, please.
Can you hear me?
Yes, please state your name and your own address.
Hi, my name's Michael Johnson. I live at 128 GLENCAIRN Avenue, which is the property immediately to the east of the property in question.
Thank you. So tell us your concern.
Hi, thank you, Mr. Chairman, and the committee for hearing me out here. Just want a little bit of context here. So we'll be concerned about the floor space index, the building length variance, and the sidewall height variance. Did have concerns with the other variances, but some of them have been removed. Just as context for this property, the houses in this neighborhood is built up in the 1920s and 1930s. The primary building type is a two-story house with a partial third story. So the third story is all kind of, if there is one, the roofs are all sloped. Basements are below grade, and so it's a traditional North Toronto house. Looking at or neighborhood, I apologize. Looking at the house in question, the proposed house is going to be a house with a parking at grade. They're calling it a basement in the plans, but it is going to be substantially above grade. And they're proposing to put 2 stories on top of that. And those 2 stories will be 2 full stories. So then if you look at what would be, equivalent to a third story in all the neighboring houses, there will be no sloping roof and no reduction in the massing of the house at the third story level. It's going to be straight out to the sides, and that's driven, as I'll get into, by the sidewall variance. Talking to the floor space index, the floor space index is indicated at 58% on this, which is above the current bylaw of 35%, and as well above the current estimated approx 40% of the current block. We fully acknowledge that any new house going in there is going to be above the 35%. It's going to be much bigger than the existing house. But what this floor space index doesn't take into account is it doesn't factor in the basement. And that would usually be fair if the basement was below grade, but this basement's at grade. And so if you look at the overall massing of the house, and if you include the basement in the floor space index, you're at 83%. And that's an apples to apples comparison versus the neighboring houses, as opposed to the 58%, which is an apples to oranges comparison. So in my view, the massing of this house is too big, and that's directly as a result of the length of this house being too long. Looking at the building length, as has been noted by my neighbors at 136 GlenCaiRn and their planner, this building, the main wall of this building is going to be meaningfully longer than the neighbors. While from the air it looks like it's the same length as 136, it's not, because this house is effectively going up 3 full stories with no step backs at all, either on the first, second, or third floor. Whereas at 136, it steps back on the first floor and then again on the third floor. And so if you look at what's being done in the neighborhood, 136 was renovated relatively recently. 2 houses over at 124 were renovated relatively. It's actually a relatively new house. They've all respected the 17 meter for the majority of their house. The sidewall height variance is particularly concerning here because what it allows is for this house to have a flat roof, whereas the prevailing characteristics of of this neighborhood, and even in the pictures shown by the applicant's planner, the top floor, they all step back in one way, shape, or form. This house is not proposing to step back on the roof line at all, and that's allowed by the sidewall height variance. And I want to focus in on this one specifically because this sidewall height was discussed extensively at the Ontario Land Tribunal recently with regards to City of Toronto's zoning bylaws, and it was left where it was, and it was left where it was specifically to prevent flat roofed houses that go up 3 stories and over high basements. And that's what's happening with this house. You got an over high basement and you got a 3rd floor that doesn't step back. And so that's exactly what that variance or that bylaw is trying to prevent is what's being proposed herein. And so, you know, in summary, as my time's running out here, I don't think this proposal meets the intent of the zoning bylaw, nor does it maintain the character or the integrity of the neighborhood as per the official community plan, and think it should be rejected.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Any question for this speaker? Okay, so we'll go back to the agent. Mr. Ryuk, are you still there?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, can you please address those concerns? Yeah, we know 1, 6, and 8 were removed. And
Yes.
if you can address the question of the rest.
Sure. Well, just to be clear, there's constant reference to the owner of this property being a developer. He is a developer, but this is his personal house that he will be living in for the foreseeable future, probably for the rest of his life. That's what he wants to do. In terms of the comments that were provided, there was a lot of discussions with regards to this house being a 3-story dwelling, having a basement being included. For all intents and purposes, if you look at the front elevation of this proposed plan, it projects and it presents itself as a 2-story dwelling. The zoning bylaw recognizes as a 2-story dwelling. In addition to that, you'll note that on the floor plans, it represents a ground floor plan, a 2nd-story floor plan, and there is a basement, and it is below grade as per the bylaw. And there's also been discussions with regards to this being a flat roof. It's pretty clear to see that on the elevation, this is not a flat roof that's being proposed. What it is a slope roof, and albeit a shallow slope, but it is a slope roof. It's not a traditional sense of a flat roof. With regards to the building height itself, the interpretation that the neighbors have been taking on this is that this is going to be a building that's in terms of overall height will be taller than what the bylaw permits within the area. It's clear to see on the site plan that this on the elevations that this is a 10-meter building, 10-meter story building, 2 stories in height, which is permitted by the bylaw. The only variance regards to the side wall, main wall heights. And as it's shown in the pictures throughout the in my presentation slides, you see various height levels in terms of eaves troughs and roof lines and roof levels, whether it be mansard roofs, flatter type roofs, on the immediate block and beyond the immediate block. So this is not out of character within the neighborhood landscape. Furthermore, in terms of the neighborhood being the as a right argument that was made by the neighbor's planner, the as a right argument, it makes it seem like nothing should occur on this property or anything within this neighborhood if it's not as a right or within the standards of the neighborhood's consensus in terms of what should be built on this property. The official plan is clear. It states that the neighborhood should be stable but not static. And what that means is that changes will occur within neighborhoods as long as they're gradual and sensitive towards the adjacent properties and towards the streetscape. And the fact that stable doesn't necessarily mean that it has to be exactly the same as every other house. The beauty of these neighborhoods within these neighborhoods is that you have different types of styles in terms of sizes of homes, different heights, different architectural features and massing that contributes to the overall character of this neighborhood. As you can see in the pictures that I've provided to you within the immediate block and in the overall block, you have newer homes, modern homes, different roof lines, different types of architectural styling that exist and coexist within this neighborhood that form the character of this block for the neighborhood. So I would submit to you that this is a representation of what's existing in the area, what's characteristic of the area, and any impacts associated with this proposal is deemed appropriate and minor in nature, given the fact that all of the variances related to the deck and the platform have been eliminated. The building length variance at 18.29 represents a 1.29 meter difference in terms of 17-meter mark. And also at the same time, the variance related to side yard setback, you'll note that at 136 GLENCAIRN, which is the neighbor immediately to the west, their side yards, their east side yard, which is adjacent to the subject side, is less than the 0.9 meter requirement. So once again, the side yard variances that we're seeking, and as shown on the area context map, is very consistent and is a result of the pattern of development that we're seeking to impose on this property, and is more than meritorious, and is an application that has not been opposed by any of the staff in the City of Toronto, and should warrant the support of committee. If you have any questions, I'll be glad to answer them.
Thank you. Any question for the speaker? If not, can I have a motion, please? Mr. Klassen?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. I listened to the comments from the applicant and from the neighbors and reviewed the plans. I'm going to move to approve this application. I think on balance, it is minor and it does meet the 4 tests. It will be, so I'll move to remove variance number 1, number 6, and number 8, and to approve the application. There aren't any comments from staff or from urban forestry.
No.
Thank you.
No, thank you. Second? Mr. Bartolo seconding. All in favor? Okay, unanimous. Thank you. Your application, sir, is unanimously approved and there is no conditions.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Now, number 14 was deferred, and number 15, which is 188 Kiwaton Avenue. And here we have one speaker only, who is the agent. Ken Choi, are you there?
Yes, I am.
Okay.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Could you please state your name and address for us?
My name is Kenneth Chow. I'm the applicant agent. Address is 316859 Highway 6 in Chatsworth.
Thank you. So we have here a rear addition with 2 variances. That's it. There's nothing else and no other speaker. Members, do we need a presentation here? No? Okay. Sir, we don't need any presentation. Do you want to add something before we move to a decision?
I think the application is pretty clear.
Thank you.
I don't have a presentation. Thank you.
Okay, there's 2 variances. Okay, any question? If no question, can I have a motion then, please? Ms. Atarodi?
Yes, through you, Mr. Chair. As you mentioned, it's a very straightforward application. Therefore, I would like to put forward a motion to approve this application with no condition.
Thank you. Second? Mr. Bartolo, seconding. All in favor? Okay, unanimous. Sir, your application is unanimously approved.
Thank you, everyone. Have a good afternoon.
Okay, number 16, which is 553 Davisville Avenue, application number 16. And here we have just one person, the agent, Kiana Muzayan. Are you there?
Hi, yes, good afternoon, Mr. Chair, members of the committee. My name is Kiana Mozayan,
Yeah,
representing the clients at.
yeah. Before
Yeah.
that, could you just please state your name and address for us, please?
Yes, Kiana Mozayan, and we're at 91 Parkhurst Drive.
Perfect, thank you. Now we have here a rear yard laneway suite, 2 variances, 5 letters of support, 1 letter came for concern, and that's it. There is no other thing. Members, do we need a presentation here? No? Okay. We don't, Ms. Mazayan, we don't need the presentation here. Do you want to say something before we move to the decision of the committee?
No, Mr. Chair, I believe it's a minor and straightforward application. If there are any questions, I would be happy to answer them.
Thank you. Okay, any question or motion, Mr. Tarodi?
Yes, to you, Mr. Chair. I just need an explanation regarding the soft landscaping 35.75%, variance number 1 versus 75. Actually, both of them, both of the variants.
Yes. Okay, so we have prepared a presentation. If you could please bring up the slides, I can explain the percentages. Okay, thank you. So in front of you is a proposal for a lease suite for which we have the support of the neighbors and the planning staff with no objections. On the first slide, you can see the Davisville Avenue on the north and the laneway in question. Sorry, that's the slide before this. Okay, so you can see Davisville Avenue on the north side and the laneway in question highlighted in a black dotted line. As you can see, there are several freestanding garages off of this lane. Our proposal is highlighted in red and is designed fully within right. The setbacks, the heights, and the floor areas all conform with the requirements outlined in the zoning bylaw. If you could please go to the next slide. We have a site plan here. So the variances we're seeking are for soft landscaping in the backyard and on the laneway side. You can see on the site plan that there is an existing backyard which has an existing wood deck and is the primary reason why we cannot conform to the zoning requirements. Everything else is softscape except for a small hardscaping area outside of the proposed laneway suite. We are not proposing to change the landscaping conditions. Our clients have an existing wood deck and an existing 2-car parking space where the proposed laneway suite is going to be. We're not proposing to change the landscaping percentages, only seeking to legalize it. As for the side of the laneway, we have 2 points of access into the laneway suite. One is to the garage and the other one is into the suite. Everything else on the laneway side is soft landscaping. However, because of the nature of the bylaws, this will require a variance. If you could please go to the next slide. So on this slide, you can see the existing garages in the lane, looking from 553 Davisville Avenue towards the east and the west. You can see that the prevailing condition for this laneway is that there's really no soft landscaping. We have additional photos of the lane on the next slide, if you could please move forward. Thank you. So you can see that the prevailing condition is no landscaping in the lane. Please go to the next slide. Thank you. So on this slide, we are showing 3 existing laneway suites in the city of Toronto. None of them have any soft landscaping on the laneway side, and all of these have been approved by the city. We believe that the variances that we're requesting are minor in nature and meet the 4 tests of the Planning Act, and we hope that you will agree with me. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. Now, any question, please? Can I have a motion then, please? Mr. Tarodi?
Yes, through you, Mr. Chair, thank you very much for the explanation. I would like to put forward a motion to approve this application with no condition.
Thank you. Second? Mr. Klassen, all in favor? Okay, your application is approved and there is no conditions.
Thank you very much.
Number 17, which is 17 Lytton Boulevard. No, it's 117, huh? 117? Yeah, 117 Lytton Boulevard, which is, here we have Lone Rose, please.
Yes, I'm here, Lauren Rose.
Okay.
388 Spadina Road.
Thank you. So we have here two more speakers, and you got here a new dwelling with 11 variances. We have 10 letters of opposition, including the Lytton Boulevard, Lytton Park Residents Organization, and we have two more speakers here. So please make your presentation before we call the other speakers.
Sure. If staff can put up the comparison of lots, houses I did Excel, and the comparison of some houses in the area, I'll discuss that. I will note that planning has no objections to this application. I understand that the neighborhood is in change. These types of houses are being built, in common. This one happens to be modern. And has 3 stories and a flat roof. But I do want to show you a comparison. The bylaw that says that flat roof houses can only be 2 stories in an area where there's 3 stories is architectural control. Having said that, when we do 3-story houses, we set back our 3rd story if they're going to be flat roofs. And you will see that in our elevations. And they're well within the as of right if you are allowed to have a sloped roof. Are those visuals coming up shortly? In the meantime, I will tell the committee members that we were dropping variance number 6. We will not be having a platform of 10 square meters on the front. How are we doing on those? There we go. Keep going. There's a drawing that we did. That's just showing other houses with balconies, but we're not having one now. Is a drawing of comparison of sloped roof houses. There were a couple of things I sent. Some were photos. There were 2 large files, so I had to break it up.
No?
Lauren, it appears that we do not have those on file at the moment.
Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness.
Okay,
they were confirmed. Okay, so there's one of them. It should be in that one. Is there a second page to that? One thing you'll notice in these photographs is almost every house has 3 stories. There was one more, a visual comparison of a sloped roof house to a flat roof house that we're proposing. No?
Kelly, if you go into IBMS, it should be there. The support material.
We're still looking for it.
Support material,
yeah. While you look for it, I can take you through this chart. The bylaw. So I've done a bunch of houses on this neighborhood and on this street, including some of the opposition. So you'll see the bylaw requires a 1.5 meter side yard setback on the sides. We're proposing 0.93 and 1.2, which is very common in the area. 110 Lytton received 0.91 and 1.22. 110 Alexandra received 0.9 and 1.2. 108 Lytton, which is a renovation that I did, at the time 0.9 meters was permitted under the bylaw, but it had 1.2 and 0.9 for side yards. Same thing with 125 Lytton, which I also did, had 0.93 and had 3.38 on the side. In terms of length, you're allowed 19 meters, 17 meters plus 2 meters for one-story projection. Our house is 17 meters, but because we have a one-story projection and an excavated porch, we require 22.02 meters. You'll see 110 Lytton had 22.34, 110 Alexandra had 20.65, 108 had 20.76, and 125 Lytton had 19 meters. In terms of FSI, every house I've done in this neighborhood, east of Avenue Road, I have achieved between 0.78 and 80% density. So here we're asking for 0.79, 110 Lytton was 0.78, 110 Alexandra 0.79, 108 0.78, and 125 0.78 density. In terms of height, because we're flat roof, we're actually only allowed 7.2 meters. But if you see the heights of our house is only 1 millimeter or 1 centimeter over the limit for sloped roof, whereas 110 Lytton was 11.42, 110 Alexandra 11.3, 108 Lytton was 11 meters measured from the first floor. I do not have his established grade because established grade was not something that was in the bylaw at the time. And as well for 125 Lytton as well, 11 meters, which would have made it more than any other house approved here.
Okay, okay, Mr. Rose.
Did you find the?
Yeah, we'll bring you
Did
back.
you find the visual?
Mr. Rose.
That's a real shame. Okay.
We'll bring you back
staff
after
put
we hear the other speakers because we're running out of the time here. So can you summarize, please? Give you a few minutes to summarize.
Okay, I'll summarize in that this house, although modern in style, is absolutely in keeping with other approvals in the neighborhood and meets the 4 tests of the Planning Act, as is evidenced in the fact that the City of Toronto Planning has no objections to this file. I'll answer any questions.
Yeah, we'll be back. We have some questions.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. So we'll have here Cheryl Puri. See if she's there. Cheryl Puri and Guilfoy, whatever.
Hi, good afternoon. Can you hear me?
Yes. Could you please state your name and address for us so we can hear you?
Yes, my name is Cheryl Peary Guilfoyle, and I live at 119 Lytton Boulevard.
Thank you. And tell us what's your concern about this application.
Okay, good afternoon, and thank you for your time. As I just mentioned, my family lives directly to the west of this proposed house. We're at 119, and the proposed house is at 117. And just from the outset, we just want to make it clear that we're not opposed to development or a new build. However, we feel the proposed home for 117 Lytton and the variances are not minor in nature. And in combination, they do not maintain the overall existing characteristics of the neighborhood, specifically with their direct neighbors. I know Lauren Rose, they just touched on that kind of, these are kind of consistent with the neighborhood, but the neighborhood is more 2-story pitched roofed houses. So there are a number of variances that are being sought, and our primary objections are with the following. So the first is the height increase of 2.9 meters, so 9.5 feet beyond the existing bylaw. The second is the increase to the 3 stories, where only 2 are permitted with a flat or shallow roof. I know we just heard that there's a lot of 3 stories on this street. I mean, it's kind of muddled with the facts. There are third stories on the street. A lot of them are with dormers or built into the roof or the attic lines of the house. We also have objections to the length increase of 5 meters, 16.5 feet, and the depth increase of just over 3 meters, and the FSI increase to 0.44. And we feel when you look at those variances in combination, they're meaningful increases in mass, bulk, scale, and height. And this house would have an overwhelming physical presence, adverse presence for the impacts of their direct neighbors and those in the vicinity. If we look specifically at the ground floor space, they have an additional dwelling length of some 5 meters. And this will adversely impact both the use of our outdoor and indoor spaces. The adverse impacts will be natural sunlight penetration and sky views will be lost. There will be increased shading and shadow effects on our backyard spaces. Our personal privacy will be invaded both into our established backyard and back into our houses. And there'll be a loss of the continuous open space feel. A lot of the houses, or most of the houses on our side of Lytton, all and within probably 5 feet of each other along the back. And this is proposing to go out, quite beyond the space of where our houses end. And so we, when we take all this into mind, we'd ask the committee to reject this application or defer it so we can have a conversation with the applicant to kind of find a mutually satisfactory compromise. And if you're not persuaded by this, we'd ask for the following conditions be imposed on this structure. And so the proposed 1.98 by 5.5 meter jut out alcove on the southwest corner of the building be deleted from the plans. This is the space for us that grossly invades our privacy. So not only does it directly look into our backyard, but it has a window that has a direct sight line back into our kitchen and back into our family room. This protrudes well beyond the end of our established of our house. We'd also ask for the committee to impose a condition to delete permission to construct the roofed terrace on the southeast side of the house. Again, this goes beyond the permitted length. And our greatest fears, I think there was a little bit of reference at the beginning that, they weren't going to build a kind of a balcony or a terrace now. And so if you allow that, that's a huge invasion of privacy for all the neighbors. If down the road there's a patio or a terrace that gets on there. And we would seek permission for a third story to not be allowed or to have it altered in a way that it is just not so kind of overbearing or massive in space. We find the house as it's proposed will have great impacts on the use of our space, mainly our backyard space and looking back into our house. And so we thank you for consideration of our concerns, and that's it for us. Thank you.
Yeah, just a second, we'll see if there is any question. Any question for the speaker? No? Okay, we have one more speaker, and that's Michael Garrity. Are you there?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes. Could you please state your name and address for us, please?
Sure, Michael Garrity, 115 Lytton Boulevard.
Thank you. So tell us what's your concern.
Sure, my concerns are very, very similar to the 119 Lytton Boulevard in the sense that the 10 now total variances for this house make it a gigantic monster home being imposed inside of the neighborhood and immediately to the right of our home. So, the most objectionable things, although there's the sort of myriad of objections is significant, the most objectionable components of this are a height increase of 9.5 feet, going to a 3-story flat home, a length increase of 16.5 feet, a covered deck that will literally block the sun from the existing backyard that we have and the pool that we have invested in our backyard, a depth increase of 9.9 feet, and a total a square foot increase on the already large home that's there of almost another 3,000 square feet. That is 3 times greater than the house I grew up in. So it is absolutely going to be the biggest home and the most significant size home in the neighborhood. And you can hear it even in the rationalization of the developer putting the plan forward. It's a Frankenstein of asks on like, well, that place has got this, and that other place has got this, and that other place has got this. There isn't one precedent that they can point to of a home of this size and scale being imposed on the neighborhood in a single example. And so we are significantly opposed as the neighbor to this house and the existing variances that are being asked for. And I would also, say that it is quite clear that the applicant knows that this is going to be opposed because of its size and scale, which is precisely why they didn't consult a single person on the street before sliding this application through. Not one consultation has occurred, not one in-support letter has been registered. And that is because they know that they are really precedent-setting in the size and scale and monstrosity of this home. So we are absolutely opposed to it.
Okay, thank you. Any question for this gentleman? Okay, so we'll bring the agents. Mr. Rose, could you come back, please? Mr. Rose?
Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yeah, now we hear you.
Yeah.
So, just before...
Oh, beautiful, you found it. So, first of all, if you can look at this, maybe staff can enlarge it. So our house is in the middle, and it is a flat roof house. The slope, the shaded areas are what would be if we had a sloped roof. So you can see the house across the street at 110 Lytton, which we recently did and was approved by this committee, which is virtually identical in variances, was approved. And then 110 Alexandra, which is a block north. This house is way shorter than any sloped roof house on this street. However, the people who developed this new bylaw specifically were against modern houses, which has no place to be in a bylaw to state such things, because variety makes for great neighborhoods. So all of these houses are taller than what we're proposing. Now, it's not by accident that my third floor is reduced from the sides on all 4 sides, because I purposely reduced the mass so that it would be within the area of a sloped roof. You saw some pictures, maybe staff can filter through those photographs of houses in the neighborhood. Giant balcony in the back, keep going. 3-story. This is the street behind. More pictures. Oops, what's happened there? Get that back, or no? In reference to the gentleman at 115, he talked about there's no precedent. I've given you the precedent. If you see, every one of these houses has 3 stories. I know people in the neighborhood tend to think that there's such a thing as a half story. There's no such thing as a half story in the bylaw. You either have a third story, you don't have a third story. Every one of these houses has 3 stories. And just because we're a flat roof house of a different architectural characteristic shouldn't mean that we're not entitled to the same height, even lower height than they are. If staff can put up my floor plans, please. Just want to say there was a comment saying that our house is so much longer than theirs and that we're 22 meters. Our house on the ground floor, which is the lady at 119 said that we're 9 meters over length. Our house on the ground floor is only 16.3 meters long. And we have a 1-story projection allowed. So you can see right there, our house is not the full length. It's because the terrace is excavated, which you saw in the other application I had in front of you today. We're not really above grade at 22 meters. It's below grade 22 meters. We're shorter than the 17 meters plus 2 meters 1-story projection we're allowed. We're at 16.3. The balcony, which we've agreed to get rid of, was at the front. There's no privacy issues. If staff can just go to my front elevation or any of the elevations, you will see in the package that I've shown all the outline of a slope roof. The dotted line is not our house. It's the straight lines within that. I can answer any other questions, but I believe this is much in keeping with development in the area. And precedent or not, this is what is getting approved in this area all the time now.
Okay, so you removed variance number 6 is out, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, now the 3 stories that you say on the street, a lot of them, are they technical 3 stories or 3-4 stories?
No, I showed you pictures. You can see window. They're 3-story houses. My clients at 108, I did a 3-story house for them. 110 has 3 stories. I'm the architect. Okay. 125 has 3 stories. They all have them. They all have densities similar to this, if not higher.
Okay, thank you. Questions? Any question for the agent? If no questions, I'm ready for a motion. Mr. Klassen?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. I've listened closely and examined the plans, and I will move to approve this application. It is minor. It does fit the context. So my motion is to remove variance 6, and there aren't any other staff conditions. Thank you.
Thank you. Second? Mr. Bartolo seconding. All in favor? Opposed? Ms. Atarodi is opposing, and 3 are for. So, Mr. Rose, your application is approved, subject to number.
Thank you very much.
Subject to number 6 removed by you, and there is no conditions. Okay, number 18, which is this is one place it said 6 Tippet, another side said 4 Tippet, and another document said 4 to 6 Tippet. So here we have here the agent, who is the David Bronscale. Are you there?
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair. Can you hear me fine?
Oh, you hear you a lot. So if you can speak just a little bit, just a little bit slow down. So could you please tell us
Yes.
This is to replace a portion of non-residential GFA, 5 variances. Staff report is asking to refuse or secure agreement from the additional community benefit. If you saw that. And first tell us the address exactly. Is it 4 to 6 or just 6?
I think, Mr. Chair, it would be fair to treat it as 6 Tippet.
Okay.
Historically, these 2 sites have been 4 and 6 Tippet, and they were the subject of the previous development application combined as 4 and 6.
Thank you. So that
Thanks,
number 6. Okay. So please, we don't have any other speaker, but because there is conditions here and staff asking for refusal, so could you please make a presentation? Tell us what the merit of the application.
I can, Mr. Chair. And can I ask if you have the counselor's letter in front of you as well? That came across my desk. Thank you. Because, Mr. Chair, I only wanted to flag up front, he has requested a similar condition to the alternate condition from city staff, which is securing some form of financial contribution for any additional residential GFA as part of it. And in fact, he's put a requested number of $100,000. Our clients reviewed that letter and accepts that request from the councillor in the event that the committee decides to authorize the variances. And Mr. Chair, it's essentially relating to the fact that there would be additional residential density achieved through this process. So this is a pro rata increase in the section 37 that was previously secured for the residential GFA. And so my client understands why it's being requested by the councillor and accepts that requested condition from the councillor. And the letter, Mr. Chair, I think also summarizes much of why these variances are being sought. There is a long history. I will avoid a lot of that, sir, because I think it's well documented in the cover letter from Bousfields, as well as Councillor Pasternak's letter. The history on this site does relate to an official plan amendment and zoning bylaw amendment that did at the time secure certain non-residential gross floor area as part of the redevelopment of the site. I think the difference of opinion with city staff, both the councillor and Bousfields and myself, is about what the intent of those provisions was in both the OPA and the zoning bylaw. And obviously that's relevant to the tests before you under subsection 45.1. We say the intent of those provisions was to ensure a mix of uses within the building and to ensure that appropriate number of jobs are actually being provided on the site, reflective of the fact that this once was many years ago an employment area. The Bousfields letter documents that even if this variance is granted by the Committee of Adjustment and there's a modest decrease in the non-residential, there's still, frankly, more jobs being provided on the site through this development than previously existed. As a reminder, the previous non-residential GFA on the site essentially were warehouses, and we had documented approximately 42 employees in those warehouses, one of which was a document storage facility. The retail at grade and the office that would still be provided on the second floor would generate actually about 71 jobs based on a well-established figure of 1 job per 30 square meters of non-residential gross floor area. So an actual increase in the number of jobs on this site resulting from this development. I think that the committee is well aware of what has happened in recent years as a result of the pandemic. The ability to provide office space in this location is challenging, to say the least. And so what we are simply doing is asking, without changing any of the built form or amenity or parking requirements, just to repurpose a small amount of that non-residential space for residential purposes. As the councillor notes, it would allow some additional residential units in close proximity to the subway station, and no negative impacts in terms of decreased amenity, decreased vehicular parking, or decreased bicycle parking, just as examples. So I'm happy to answer any questions, but I do submit that the real intent behind the planning documents is still being met through this proposal, because there will be a mix of uses on the site, and there will in fact be a net increase in the number of jobs being provided on the site, while still allowing for some modest additional residential intensification. So that's the background, Mr. Chair. And as always, I'm happy to answer your questions or any of those from this committee.
Okay, so I understand the councillor is sending a letter with the contribution requirement, and the committee has to decide whether that will replace the agreement of the community benefits. I understand that the main benefit is not to lose the employment sections. So a letter is a letter, but are we satisfied that that is really because the staff and us looking at the report and the intent of the construction and the conditions based not only based on a letter from a councillor. So let's see what the other members are saying, And if this is, before I go there, do you take this contribution as equivalent to the additional community benefit, the agreement?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yes, because what's happening is, just as a very, very quick reminder, there's still about 1,250 square meters of non-residential gross floor area on the ground floor. The reduction is on the second floor from 1,515 square meters to 873 square meters. And so that approximately 700, a little bit less than 700 square meter reduction of the non-res is repurposed as residential. And so that residential, therefore, in a normal Section 34 rezoning application, would have provided some form of Section 37 benefit. And so therefore, it is appropriate that if there is that modest increase in the residential GFA, that there be a modest increase in the Section 37 contribution as well. Unfortunately, we can't, when we're at the committee, do it through Section 37, and that's why the councillor is proposing to do it as a reasonable condition under subsection 45(9).
Okay, we'll see if the committee decides to consider that condition of the contribution. So let's see, members, any questions? Mr. Bartolo?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. I mean, my big question around this is why now? Like this deal has been made and is obviously being on a long time in the works. I can see from the history of it. And why try and make this amendment now after everything is signed and sealed and things are progressing well?
Thank you for the question through you, Mr. Chair. I think it's actually that timing is in part one of the reasons for the application now. The original approval was back in March of 2018. So we're coming up to about 4 years. The building is in fact largely finished, and there is a challenge through that construction process in tenanting out all of that space. So they are trying, it's a market reality that they are not succeeding. And that attempt is compromised or hampered additionally by COVID. So they attempted to market the space even before COVID. It's been frankly even more difficult after COVID. And I'll be, I think, quite blunt through you, Mr. Chair. It's likely this space will just be vacant because there just aren't these tenanting options on the second floor for this office space. And so given that passage of time, rather than having the space remain vacant and underutilized, they're asking, therefore, can it be residential so that it's in fact space within the approved built form that will actually be used and function. And we think there's a good public benefit here in terms of a modest number of additional residential units, not many, close to the subway, rather than having the space vacant. Sorry, sir, I talked over you. Apologies.
Is it condo or rental?
It would be condo.
I see.
Okay, any other question? I don't see Mr. Klassen, do you?
I'm here, Mr. Speaker.
Okay, I don't see it here.
Here.
Okay.
No, you don't see me?
Yeah, now it's okay. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay.
All right, so any other question? If not, can I have a motion then, please? Anyone for a motion? Mr. Klassen?
Well, Mr. Chair, I will attempt to make a motion here, but it is obviously a difficult situation, especially for the Committee of Adjustment dealing with a complex situation, a building that's been built and then changes to its use, and having to make a decision as to what sort of financial transfers are incurred. So I will move to approve this application, but to make it subject to agreement to be reached between the city and the developer as to the amount of the financial transaction that is going to follow. Thank you.
Second? Do you have a second? Miss, okay. Miss Manning, second. All in favor? Opposed? Okay, I have two opposing factors here. I look at the application here, and although the building was built a long time ago, changes occur and they have to occur. And today, based on what we heard, that there is no need too much for the improvement in that particular section. So, and if there's demand for the if there is a demand for the residents, so be it. And here, the staff, all they're asking for is like an agreement, and here, it seemed like this is a good thing. Now the question, the one it asking for $100,000. When we hear the money, we think, oh, gee, somebody wants money. This is basically spent in the area to improve in order to achieve the development. So the contribution is inappropriate. The question here, the motion says the contribution should be decided upon between the agent, between the builder and the city, you said, Mr. Klassen?
I did, yeah, because I don't think it's appropriate for the councillor to make that.
Okay, so contribution should be decided upon between the owner and the city. So if the council want to be involved, that's fine. So I'll move with the motion to approve the application as it said here. And there is no other condition here. Yeah, there is no other condition. Okay, so here is the decision, Mr. We have here the motion is to approve the application, subject to the contribution to be decided upon between the owner and the city. And staff can be involved with that, and the council can be involved with that. But I agree with the decision that it is not up to us to decide what the amount is. Are you with us, Mr.?
Yes, sir, I am.
Okay, so you got the decision. Thank you.
Yes, sir. And I understand that we would implement that condition through additional discussions with staff. We will do that. Thank you.
Thank you. Number 19, which is 69 Strathgowan Avenue, application number 19. And here we have the agent, Sarah Barkley. Sarah Barkley?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, can you please state your name and address for us?
Yep, Sarah Barkley from Rubinoff Design Group. The address is 18 Gloucester Lane, Toronto.
Thank you. We have here two-story addition, third floor, third loft, 4 variances. TRCA has no objection. Forestry condition number 1, and we have 3 letters of concern. And we have one more speaker here, a resident, to speak on this application. So please give us a 5-minute presentation so we can get on the other speaker.
Sure. Yeah, so this is an existing 2-story home at the end of Strathgowan Avenue. It's a very unique lot in that it's a bit of an irregular shape, and it's at the bottom of a hill adjacent to the ravine. The proposal is to fill in a small portion of the second floor and replace the roof, which will include a loft space. The existing house has a fairly small footprint, and the owners have put in a lot of work into the existing home as well as the rear yard landscaping. So they're looking to gain some more livable space with minimal impact on the work that they have already done. I've submitted some supporting documents which may help illustrate the requested variances. If you could pull up the site plan page there, if you scroll down. I've highlighted on there, at the bottom of the page, it indicates the FSI. So I just wanted to talk about that a bit, because the FSI that is calculated does in fact include the basement space. The established grade is taken at the front of the property, which happens to be very low because the grade does drop off towards the east to the ravine. So this is a condition where the basement's included in that. The proposed FSI without the basement space is 0.67 times density, which is very comparable to other homes in the neighborhood. The total addition accounts for an increase of 0.22 times density, or approximately 88 square meters. It is not a large addition. The height increase is also taken from this very low average grade at the front of the house, but the home itself actually sits far below other homes in the area. If you look at the last page of the supporting documents, down one more. So this is indicating the proposed roof next to the adjacent neighbor. You'll see the grade continues to slope down the street towards the left-hand side. So the house, while we are asking for 2 feet in height, it does still sit below the neighboring home. I do also want to note that the neighbor to the west at 67 Strathgowan did submit an email in support of the application. It was submitted after the deadline, but the application was discussed, and they are in support of the proposal. We've also been in touch with Ravine and TRCA, who do not have concerns. We do understand upon approval there would be a condition requiring permits from Ravine, TRCA, and Forestry, and we'd be happy to continue working with them. So in summary, we do feel that the variances requested are in fact very minor in nature and very site specific. Due to the grading of the lot, the addition will sit below the other homes in the surrounding area and therefore do not impact the neighbors. I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Okay, thank you. We'll get you back after we hear the other speaker. Margaret Casey, are you there? Oh, that's good. Margaret Casey, are you there? Miss Casey, are you there? Is she online?
Mr. Chair, we do have Margaret Casey signed in, but she signed in twice, so I'm unsure of which one we should be unmuting.
Okay, let's try one more time. Okay.
I have no comment.
Okay, you have no comment?
Yes, I only wanted to observe.
Oh, she's just come up to observe. I see. Okay, thank you. So we'll move on with our program. If you came just to observe, and I hope you're observing very well. You're observing good, okay? So let's move on to the, we get back Sarah Barkley. Sarah?
Yes, hello.
Okay, so let's see what the members have any question. Members, the agent is here. We don't have any other speaker there. Just the agent. Any questions? No? Okay, then can I have a motion then, please? Anyone for a motion, Ms. Tarodi?
Yes, through you, Mr. Chair, I would like to put forward a motion to approve this application with no other condition, because TRCA also has mentioned that there's no impact on that.
I believe there
That's
is
my motion.
forestry, yeah?
Okay, we can, forestry condition?
One, yeah. Thank you.
Sure.
Thank you.
Forestry condition.
Second? Mr. Bartolo seconding, all in favor? Okay, unanimously approved. Your application is approved, subject to only forestry.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Okay, number 20, which is number 20, which was 160 Wedgewood Drive, application number 20. And here we have just the agent, who is Mark Andrews, whatever. Could you please, Mr. Andrews, are you there?
Yes.
Mark, could you please?
My name is Mark Andraus.
Andraus.
Can you hear me?
Yes, yes. And your,
Yes.
Your address?
Yeah, it's 3122 Eclipse Avenue, Mississauga.
Thank you.
Thank you for having me here today.
Thank you. So we have here a new dwelling, 8 variances. Staff report is asking to modify variance number 1 and number 4 and refuse number 3, and C, the condition, revise east and west elevation drawings. Condition of the forestry, and councillor letter agrees with the staff. So we don't have any other speaker, but we still need you to make due to this complication, we need you to make a small presentation. Your 5 minutes is starting now.
Okay, so we revised the drawing as per the recommendation of the staff report, and we changed the rear projection and the footprint of the house. So that would address the comments for number 3 and number 4. With regards to the setback, the side setback, we changed one of the side setbacks for the adjacent property to be 1.5 meter instead of 1.24.
Okay, excuse me. We have to, the staff have to record exactly the changes. So could you tell us the name, the address, the number of the variance, and what you're changing it to?
Okay, so variance number 1.
Yes.
For the west side, for the west side.
Just number 1, you're changing it to what?
So number 1, we did change the east side to be 1.5, but for the west side, we left it at 1.4 because we believe that considering that this property facing the rear yard.
Excuse me, sir. Before you explain everything, I'll need you just to give me the number of the variance and what you're changing it to. So you said number 1, you're changing it to 115?
No, for variance number 4, we changed the projection.
You didn't say number 1, you want to change it to 1.5? 1.5, no?
Okay, so for variance number 1, for the zoning notes, number 1, the two side setbacks were at 1.2. We changed the east side to be 1.5 meter. And we kept the west side 1.5 meter.
1.5.
And for the west side, we kept it at 1.24 because this side is facing the rear yard of the adjacent houses, which gives a lot of privacy.
Yeah, you don't have to, excuse me, we'll give you 5 minutes to explain everything. In the meantime, we need the number and what you're changing it to. You said number 1, you're changing it to what?
The east side, it changed it to 1.5. We kept the west side to 1.24.
I got that. Now, next change. Number 4.
The change for the
variance number 4, are you changing
number
it?
4? Number 4, we changed it from the original design, which is 9.2 meter to 8.5, which is consistent with what was approved before in the neighborhood.
Okay, so you're not changing number 4.
No.
Okay, next. Okay, the staff is asking to refuse number 3, and we'll have the conditions. So all you're changing is variance number 1. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, please make your presentation.
Okay, so for the refusal of number 3, we did change the design, which is shown in the drawing that was submitted on the 23rd. So page number 2, it's bubbled where we did the change. So we reduced the projection for 4.4 and the washroom, which was the footprint of the basement from 24 meters to 21 meter. So that reduced the footprint of the house. So that's to address the refusal. So we try to comply with that. With regards to the side wall height, which is the recommendation for the modification, the 8.5 meter, it's what was approved for such kind of design in the neighborhood. For the characteristic of the design, the windows are full height, and we have pitched roof, which still should, if it would approve to be a pitched roof, would be 10 meters. We are under 9 meters as per the previous recommendation to change the design. For
Mr. Speaker, sorry to interrupt. None of what he's saying matches anything that's on the application. We're asking what got changed. You said nothing got changed. Now you're going back and saying things have been changed. What are the numbers?
Okay, if I go with the recommendation, so recommendation number 1. Which is the setback. So when we had the zoning certificate or zoning notice, where previously when we submitted the drawing, we had the 2 side setbacks, one at 1.5 and one at, both of them at 1.5. We changed one of them to be 1.5 instead of 1.24.
So you're not
for the rear setback projection, we were at 5 meters. We reduced it. And the footprint of the house was 24 meter. We changed it to 21.
Sir,
and those are the changes.
Excuse me, sir.
Yes, sir.
We are confused with your changes here. Don't explain us the reason you changed. Number 1, you said you changed it. The proposed east yard setback, you leave it as 1.5?
That's the west one to be.
It said
yes, the east one changed it to be.
It said the east 5 is 1.5. Are you leaving it 1.5?
Yes.
Okay, and the west
side. Which
side.
is complying with the recommendation.
Okay, and the west side, you're changing it to what?
We kept it at 1.24.
So you're not changing anything on 1?
We originally had the east one at 1.24. We changed it to be 1.5.
Well, that was before the, it wasn't before.
Recommendation.
So you mean this was after the recommendation?
Yes, we submitted this drawing in 23rd, yesterday.
Okay, so
revising the east to be 1.5.
Okay, so in number 1, the setback remains 1.5 for the east and 1.24 for the west. No changes there.
Yeah.
Okay, and
yes.
And number 4, that the staff is recommending to change. You did not change anything there either, right?
No.
Okay, and for number 3, they asked to refuse.
We changed the projection.
This was also made after the change, after the recommendation.
Yes.
So we didn't.
Yes.
Okay, so in other words, the members, there is no change whatsoever to the variances that he submitted, and we'll have to.
We changed it. We changed the recommendation for the projection of the rear yard, for the deck area. We changed it.
When you say we changed it, you changed it to what?
To 4.4 meter.
Which variance is that?
That's the recommend.
Sir, with all due respect, we are confused here. You're changing what? You said you didn't change number 4 and you didn't change number 1. Which one you're changing now?
Variance number 3.
Yes, you are changing it to what?
To 4.4 meter instead of 5 meters.
Number 3. Four point what?
4.
4.4. 4.4 instead of 5 meter, right?
Yes.
So that's the only change you're making.
There was another change, which is variance number 5.
Yes.
The footprint was 24.78. Right
Yeah.
now it's 21.
21 even?
No, it's 21. What I believe the drawing is showing it is 21.35.
21 point what?
35.
35. Okay. So let's go over it again because we're really a little bit confused here. So let's go over again. So number 5, you're changing it to 21.35. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. And the other one, you're changing it to 4.4 meter.
Yes.
Instead of 5 meter.
Yeah.
Okay, number 3. All right. Okay, members, here we finally got him to explain. Variance number 3 is changing it to 4.4 meter instead of 5 meter. And number 5 is changing it to 21.35 meters instead of the 24.78 that he originally submitted. Those are the only 2 changes he's making. So please continue. Do you still have to make more presentations? Do you still have to make?
Yes.
More? Okay, please go ahead.
Yeah, with regards to the side wall height, we complied with what's commonly approved by the committee for this kind of architectural design, because we have all the winds based on this style that to be full height. We have the staircase winds is full height, so the design will be dramatically changed if we go down to 8 meters. And with all what's been approved in the neighborhood for this kind of design, it's always been 8.5. So we were hoping to go for this height.
That's it?
Yes.
Okay. Members, any question, please? Mr. Bartolo?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. Okay, so I've got the 2 previous revisions. Now, variance number 4, the permitted maximum height of all exterior main walls facing the side lot line, 7.5. You requested 9.05 on paper, and then you just said 8.5 verbally. What is the requested variance?
No, originally we submitted the roof as flat roof when we had the 7.5. So then we changed the roof to pitched roof, and we put the height at 9 meters. When we had the recommendation from the staff to reduce the height, considering it as a flat roof, we reduced the 9 meters to 8.5. So the drawings that has been submitted showing the side wall height as 8.5.
The drawings that arrived yesterday, I understand you made modifications. Variance number 4, right? Should it be 9.05 meters or 8.5 meters?
8.5, that's what's submitted.
Okay, 8.5.
Yeah. So that's 3
Okay,
changes.
I think I got it. I'm tracking on 3 changes now, Mr. Chair.
Yeah. Okay. Any other question? Mr. Tarodi?
Yes, through you, Mr. Chair, I have a question regarding the variance number 6, building depth. So if the applicant changed the building length from 24.78 to 21.35, does it affect the building length depth? Because as per numbers that is in front of us, both of them were 24.7.
Right.
So when he modified building length, does he also want to change building depth, or the building depth will remain?
Did you hear Mr.
The
Andrau?
building depths, yes. So the building depths is different than the footprint. The building depths did not change, and we were not, based on a recommendation of the staff, it's been commonly approved to have the similar depths, which is 19.8 meter. So the building depths was always 19.8, and based on staff recommendation, it's been commonly approved at this depth. So the only thing needed to, based on a recommendation, is to change the bathroom in the basement, which what is making the footprint changing. We changed the size and orientation of the washroom that was projecting outside the building for 5 meters. We changed it to be 1.5 meter projection at the basement footprint.
So I just want to repeat to see what I understand is correct or not. So the variance number 6, as per your explanation, also have been changed in the proposed building depth. Instead of 24.78, is it 19.8 meter?
Yes.
So number 6 also modified.
But this one was not modified in the last revision, was modified before submitting to the committee of adjustment, after we received the notice of zoning.
Correct. But are you modifying it? Because if you change the building length, the building depth also need to be modified. So,
yeah.
So what I hear is, oh, you also change based on the final decision, final revision, you also change variance number 6,
to
the
19.
building depth to 19.8 meter. Is that correct?
Yes.
And then the building length, variance number 5, you also earlier changed it from 24.78 meter to 21.35 meter. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay,
So,
thanks.
so thank you, Mr. Tarodi. This is another change for number 6 to 19 meters.
19.8.
19.8. Okay. All right. Any other question? So can anybody?
No.
Yeah.
No, not, it's just that not, I know regarding a variance number 1, we asked a couple more times, but I just want to ask for the final time. So applicant had east side yard setback at 1.5, and the proposed west side yard setback will be 1.24?
24, yeah.
Or
he said he's not.
Or 1.5.
No, he said he's not changing 124. You can make a decision, but he said he's not changing 1.24. He said.
I know, but when he earlier explained, he changed it, and then when you ask, he said he won't. I just want to clarify it one more time.
Yeah.
Okay, so the bylaw is asking for 1.8, and what we proposed 1.5 for both sides. When we received the zoning notice, we changed. The bylaw is requesting 1.8. What we originally proposed was 1.24 for both sides. After we received the zoning notice, we changed one of the two sides to be 1.5, which is the east side.
Okay, but city staff also recommend the west side to be also modified to 1.5. Are you?
We are not changing it. We believe because this side is facing the rear yard of the neighboring properties, that will leave a lot of privacy for each one.
Okay, thank you very much for clarification.
Thank you.
Yes. So what you said before is not changing. The proposed east side is 1.5 and the west side is 1.24. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. So he's not changing that. Anyone for a motion? Mr. Klassen?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. I'd like to move to approve this application on balance, it is minor and it does meet the 4 tests, subject to variance 3 changing to 4.4 meters, variance 4 changing to 8.5 meters, variance 5 changing to 21.35 meters, and variance 6 changing to 19.8 meters. And it is also subject to urban urban forestry.
Right.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, there was a condition for from the staff to condition revise east and west elevation, but because of these changes, you don't wish to put that condition, right?
I'm not, no.
Okay, thank you. Second? Do I have a second? Mr. Bartolo seconding, all in favor? Opposed? Okay, we have 2 opposing and 2, I think. Here we have we have 8 variances that were very not settled about it. And under normal condition with this confusion, I would go to refuse it. But we're not a punitive body. Now I know the presentation has been a little bit confusing, but based on those changes, which are clear now from the member, so I'll go along with the motion and approve the application with those changes.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, so we have we finished our morning session, and we just are almost 2 o'clock. So we'll get members. You need what, half an hour or 20 minutes? 2:30. Okay. How about coming back at 2:30? And we're not far off. It's only instead of 2, we have 2:30. So 2:30 we'll resume the session.